I cannot believe it. I thought this was impossible, like a growth spurt in my 30s. I didn't think this was something that would ever happen here. I feel like I'm 9 years old and I just watched a birthday party magician pull a quarter out from behind my ear. My mind is blown. Earlier today, former Prince Andrew was arrested following Epstein files revelations. For those that don't know, Prince Andrew was in a lot of the files. There were even pictures as well, very disturbing stuff. He was a stronger presence in the Epstein files than Obi-Wan Kenobi was in the original Star Wars trilogy. He was in there a lot. And there's been tons of allegations and a lot of evidence and a lot of ties with Epstein. But I think most people, myself included, just didn't expect anything to happen because that's been kind of the protocol recently, where the Trump administration in particular is constantly just telling the American public to move on from it and it's not a big deal, stop caring. Pam Bondi struggles through her lobotomy to try and get a story straight about where she stands with Epstein files on if they exist or if they don't, if they're on her desk or what's going on there. It seems like everyone kind of plugs their ears when Pam Bondi's around and they don't fill her in on the talking points, so her story's never cohesive. The only thing she sticks to is that Epstein files are all out there and we're done. And there's nothing more to be done about it. Justice has been served with 0 arrests outside of Maxwell. And of course, Perjury Patel loves to lie about it. Todd Blanche also takes a special kind of joy in letting people know that, yeah, most likely nothing's ever coming from this. It's not a crime to party with Epstein.
Is there any chance that any of these individuals who partied with Epstein and engaged in, relations with minors will be prosecuted? Any chance?
I'll never say no, and we will always investigate any evidence of misconduct. But as you know, it is not a crime to party with Mr. Epstein. And so as horrible as it's not a crime to email with Mr. Epstein. And some of these men may have done horrible things. And if we have evidence that allows us to prosecute them, you better believe we will. But it's also the kind of thing that the American people need to understand, that it isn't a crime to party with Mr. Epstein. It isn't a crime to have
Didn't look like that's all that was going on some of those photos. I mean, if the photos could speak, some of them look pretty bad.
That's right. And unfortunately, photos can't speak. And so we need witnesses and we need
evidence. Are there videotapes that you all have?
Yeah, there's a lot of videotapes, actually. But according to Todd Blanche in this administration, that's not like actionable evidence. Yeah, there's nothing here. Everyone's making a mountain out of a molehill. But interestingly enough, it seems like other places in the world are taking it more seriously than America is here, this administration. Internationally, there have been a lot of powerful figures that have come under intense scrutiny and have stepped down or been relieved of their position. And now we're seeing Prince Andrew be arrested in the UK for his involvement here in the Epstein files. And they're investigating that, seeing what's going on there. That's more than this administration has done. The Trump administration, still 0 fucking arrests outside of Maxwell, whom they're doing everything in their power to ensure has the most luxurious time in prison possible. Now, normal, sensible people with a functioning frontal lobe are all celebrating that it's an arrest in regards to the Epstein files. Finally, hallelujah! That's a pump your fist moment. That's a certified finger-wiggling situation here. But weirdly enough, there's one person who's real tore up about it here. I'm telling you, this guy looks like he's got the suds right now, like fucking SpongeBob. Trump's extremely sad that Prince Andrew got arrested.
I got a question about something big overseas today. The former Prince Andrew arrested by the police there, related to something with Jeffrey Epstein. Do you think people in this country at some point, associates of Jeffrey Epstein, will wind up in handcuffs too?
Well, I'm the expert in a way because I've been totally exonerated. That's very nice. So I can actually speak about it very nicely. I think it's a shame. I think it's very sad. I think it's so bad for the royal family. It's a very, very sad. To me, it's a very sad thing. When I see that, it's a very sad thing to see it and to see what's going on with his brother, who's obviously coming to our country very soon, and he's a fantastic man, the king. So I think it's a very sad thing.
What a fucking odd response. It's sad that someone has been arrested in relation to the Epstein files. Why? Why shouldn't they be investigated? Why is this sad? Why is this cause for tears? Like, he looks like he just watched the ending to Marley and Me. He's looking emotional as shit right now over Prince Andrew's arrest. Why is this something sad? Like, not a single mention of, like, the victims ever from Trump, really. He never really seems to care about the victims in the Epstein case. It's only ever, man, there's a lot of innocent men here that are getting roped into this, and that's the real victims. That's the real sad story. Guys that, just wanted to talk baseball with Epstein and all of that kind of shit, getting labeled nasty stuff. Man, that's the real bitch of it. It's so wild to me that when it comes to Epstein, Trump's MO is move on, it's not a big deal. Yeah, the most infamous child sex trafficker in this nation's history, had a bunch of clients and all of them are getting away with it. Big whoop. Go cry about it. Kick dirt, pussy. Let's move on. It's nothing that anyone should ever care about. All of the rape, the torture, the murder, all of that stuff, it's not a big deal. That's small potatoes. Get over it. And then when someone like Prince Andrew gets arrested in regards to it, he's like, oh, now that's sad. That's really sad. We need to take a moment of silence here. That's sad stuff. Please, won't everyone play a sad song on the world's smallest violin for Prince Andrew? This is a really heartbreaking scenario here. It's like watching an ASPCA commercial. I couldn't believe it. I shan't believe it when I saw Prince Andrew was arrested. Oh my lord, an entire tissue box was expended, wiping the tears from my eyes. What a weird response. It's very clear this administration is desperately trying to do everything in its power to distract and deflect from the Epstein files and try and minimize just how important this is, how big of a deal this is. And now he's trying to sell you on this pile of dog shit here that it's like a bad thing that Prince Andrew's been arrested. And I guess maybe for Trump and his friends it is a bad thing because there's a chance Prince Andrew might start squealing. He might let the cat out of the bag and could implicate some other very powerful people in relation to Epstein. So maybe that's why he's so tore up about it. It's just so fucking crazy that he doesn't even try and hide it. And he doesn't need to. His fan base will absolutely just swallow his whole cock at all times for anything at all.
A stunning royal arrest. Former Prince Andrew taken into custody from his home in the English countryside. It follows growing revelations about the alleged connections between the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein and Andrew, the former Duke of York and brother of King Charles. Thames Valley Police saying the arrest was on suspicion of misconduct in public office.
This seems like they're pursuing it pretty seriously. I imagine an investigation is underway where I would again guess that they find a lot of evidence on Prince Andrew and Epstein's connections and some really fucking horrible, heinous shit. Now, I've got a little hunch there's a little someone special out there that's also starting to sweat profusely after seeing this news of Prince Andrew's arrest. Victoria Hervey. Victoria Hervey had a relationship with Prince Andrew quite a while ago, and she's got a very interesting take on Epstein.
That was very powerful. So like if you were on the scene and you were powerful, like to be honest, like if you're not in those files, it would be an insult because it just means that you were a bit of a loser.
Right. So the people who aren't in the files are these?
Yes.
Okay. Are you in the files?
Well, of course I am, because it's any journalist that wrote about it.
That's an astonishing attitude, isn't it? You're the loser because you're not in this. I find that jaw-dropping.
They're just so brazen now. With her whole chest, she says it would be an insult if you weren't invited to party with Epstein. You're a loser if you didn't party with Epstein.
Police have been looking into emails in which Andrew apparently shared confidential government information with Epstein. The latest batch of released files showing Andrew forwarded reports about foreign countries and trade opportunities to Epstein in 2010, when he was serving as a UK trade envoy.
Charles, how long have you known about Andrew and Epstein?
But the scandal has been growing for years.
That clip they show in the segment right there where someone said, how long have you known about Andrew and Epstein? And the crowd erupts in shock and awe and disgust. Like they're upset that someone said something about it. That blew my mind. Like, is everyone there just okay with it? They all rolled their eyes collectively like, oh, here we go, Epstein again. Can you just let it go? We're trying to ignore it. Like, what the fuck? I'm hoping I'm having like a bad read on what happened there, but I think it came across pretty clear that the people there were not too pleased to hear Epstein's name brought up there. They'd rather just pretend that it's not real, I guess. Which is crazy. And that's exactly what so many of these powerful politicians that have engaged in these unthinkable evil acts want. And people, just sheep, are okay with it. They're like, oh my God, look at this guy who went out of line and said something about Epstein and Andrew. This is crazy. Can someone shun that guy? Can we get him out of here?
With other allegations, including of sexual misconduct against Andrew, including from Epstein victim Virginia Roberts Giuffre, seen in this picture with Andrew. The prince asked about it in an infamous interview in 2019, though
That one is a timeless Prince Andrew classic. That one is an iconic moment from Prince Andrew's time on Earth. I actually made a video on that 6 years ago. His defense was, this couldn't have happened. This is a big, bold lie. This is a fib because, I don't sweat. Even though there is so much proof of him sweating. This guy sweats. He's a fucking sweater. He sweats a lot, actually. It was the wackiest fucking defense. But again, he got away with it until very recently, it seems. And I guess it's not even clear if he hasn't got away with it. He's been arrested, but he's not, in jail or anything yet. They're still investigating. So, it's possible he still gets away with it. But for all of this time, he hadn't even been arrested or anything. So even the worst fucking lie ever to protect himself about not sweating was enough. It's just so blatantly corrupt across the globe. They don't even bother trying to hide any of this or even cover it up at all, really. And people just excuse it. They just let it go. In that clip a moment ago, where someone brings up Andrew and Epstein and everyone's like, fuck you, buddy. I'm busy being a blind worshiper of this political figure. Come on, man. I'm busy trying to not think for myself. It's so sad and scary. Now, anyway, in America, obviously there haven't been any Epstein-related arrests since Maxwell, of course, and if Todd Blanche and the rest of the administration is anything to go by, it doesn't seem like they're interested at all in pursuing anything Epstein-related with clients or co-conspirators, anything like that. It doesn't seem like they're actually pursuing justice in any way, shape, or form. They're trying to hammer home the point that you shouldn't care about it, get over it. They are literally saying that. So it doesn't seem like there's any arrests coming to anyone there. And there have been a couple of very powerful people that have lost some of their positions at the corporations that they were a part of as a result of the Epstein files due to public pressure and scrutiny. So there have been some people that stepped down here, but again, no investigations, no arrests or anything like that. So it looks like they're still getting away with it. Even though they might not be at those mega corporations anymore, they still have unfathomable wealth and are not punished for their involvement in these Epstein files and all of their fucking crimes or anything. The administration is not interested in pursuing it, it seems. But who knows? Maybe Prince Andrew's arrest is the first domino to fall, and we'll see tons more arrests of these evil, vile people that are pulling the strings behind the curtain that have gotten away with this evil for so long. Now, I want to put a little bonus clip in here because something else has just recently happened. A new name, well, I guess not a new name, but more information has come out about Leslie Wexner and his involvement in the Epstein case, and a very interesting moment has just unfolded as he was being asked questions.
It was just regularly done. Answer the question.
His lawyer there said, I will fucking kill you if you answer another question with more than 5 words, okay? And then Les Wexner starts giggling about it. Do they teach that in law school? Is that part of the bar? I don't know if I've ever seen that strategy there from a lawyer. That's pretty alarming, I would think, right? Maybe? Yeah? I mean, come on. That's peculiar, right? For his lawyer to be saying something like that? Now, this is in an Epstein deposition. He also said some very fascinating stuff about Rothschild. Like, this had quite a bit in it, but this moment right here was by far the most odd. I would think most people would see this, hear this, and immediately recognize, okay, this is fishy. Anyway, though, Prince Andrew being arrested is good news. Don't let Trump fool you into thinking that it's sad news. An arrest finally being made in regards to Epstein. Oh my goodness. Maybe we can actually start getting punishment for some of these fucking monsters out there and learn who else is a part of it. Like this, I think this is a good thing. The arrest of Prince Andrew. Well, I should have seen this coming. Prince Andrew has been released. That didn't last very long. They got him in there, and then they said, "Okay, time's up." He's still under investigation, supposedly, but yeah, he's not being held or anything. He was arrested, but he's now released. The investigation supposedly ongoing. I made this video, like everything you have watched up until this point, I made this afternoon, and now this news is just now breaking about him being released, so definitely need to include that in here. I'm hoping that they're taking the investigation seriously, though I'm now skeptical because, well, I mean, they already let him go. That was very quick. He was there for a couple hours, maybe. He went in there, took a nap, and then went home, I guess. Well, that's the latest update on the Prince Andrew arrest. Alright, well, that's really about it. So yeah. It's 5 a.m. I got a butt full of poop, but I cannot peel myself away from the computer to go take care of that business. I'm refusing nature's call, and it's not insomnia that's keeping me awake right now. We are in the middle of what I believe to be an actual big development here in the Epstein case. CoffeeZilla just made a video talking about this, as well as giving instructions on how you yourself can get your hands on this latest dump of documents that wasn't supposed to go out yet, but had been accessible to people savvy enough to get their hands on it, and now it's been disseminated. And these are some documents here that I imagine they were probably going to do a little bit more to hide some names and hide certain elements of, because, hooey, boy howdy, I imagine Trump and a lot of the elites are doing this right now. Yeesh. There is some big stuff in here, and I'm not saying that sarcastically this time around. Yes, the vast majority is still like hundreds of pages of completely blacked out, redacted garbage, like it's completely useless. But some of them that they didn't get a chance to go through and just, fucking vanish to the shadow realm has eye-opening stuff that directly contradicts a narrative that the government's been running with for a while.
Here's what that looks like. It's volume 8 of the files, but you can see right now that they've only released 7 data sets. And so myself, the guys at Jmail and the guys at DropSite, we've been investigating this. I've partnered with them to kind of look at some of these files, and they got access to volume 8 early. You would just type it in the URL. It wasn't like indexable on search, but you could just type in the specific URL and it would just come up. You could download the entire zip file, and that's what we did.
Before anyone tries to cry foul questioning the authenticity of these documents here, this is the actual volume 8. They just made it accessible by pure accident because everyone that seems to be working at the highest level is actually like a thumb-sucking fucking brain-dead moron.
Specifically, I want to draw your attention immediately to the 10 co-conspirators that are mentioned in some of these emails in 2019. Now, this is just alarming stuff because prior to this, remember that all we really had was Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. That's the only people who have ever faced any charges at all. Ghislaine Maxwell, the only one who actually faced consequences, right? But in 2019, apparently there were 10 co-conspirators. Now, the people who were sending this to and from have been blacked out, but at the bottom we see that this is the violent crime section, crimes against human trafficking unit.
That is huge information, especially when you consider clowns like Kash Patel saying that there's no evidence that Jeffrey Epstein was trafficking victims to others or anything like that, making it seem like it was a solo operation and Ghislaine Maxwell, was second fiddle and that's it. And also Maxwell, worth remembering, isn't exactly facing the harshest of punishment. Not real justice there now that she's at a summer camp prison for a little bit petting service animals. So, I want to also make a side note. Kash Patel needs to be in jail. Like, he literally needs to be arrested. I don't know why perjury isn't something that's taken seriously anymore. There is irrefutable evidence Kash Patel has lied on record about this case. It's crazy that he just gets to do that with pure immunity. But I won't start shitting and spitting about that too hard right now. The important thing about this piece that CoffeeZilla is highlighting is that we now have information that confirms that authorities were looking into other co-conspirators in this operation. Co-conspirators that clearly they must have dropped the leads at some point. They stopped sniffing around, said not worth pursuing, but at one point they did have other co-conspirators and apparently quite a bit of information on them, as the documents seem to hint at and reveal and talk around. So, what the fuck happened, and why are they now pretending that there aren't co-conspirators when we now have hard proof that there was and that they were pursuing for however brief a time?
And additionally, some of the details on this are revealed later because we see this subject line. It says co-conspirators at the top. And it says, blank does not need to head out. We made contact with blank last night in New York City. Blank last night in New York. Contact was made with blank, blank, and blank. By the way, I love how these potential co-conspirators are people who are being blacked out. Like, why? I thought the whole point of this was you couldn't redact people for personal information reasons or for public embarrassment. You could only redact on the basis of it being a victim. And I'm not sure how these people could possibly be victims here.
Epstein Files Transparency Act prohibits redactions, quote, on the basis of embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity. Has anything been redacted on that basis?
Absolutely, positively not.
Liar, liar, plants for hire. His nose about to grow fucking 5 feet with that big old fib. This is inarguable that they are redacting names of people that aren't victims here. As CoffeeZilla points out, these are co-conspirators. The evidence is overwhelming. There's no wiggle room here, no way to weasel out some kind of explanation for why these would be justifiably censored and blacked out and redacted. These are clearly not victims. This is about the co-conspirators. So there should be no exceptions made. Their names should be revealed here in these documents, but they're not. It's been redacted. Why? Who are they covering up for? And why? This is illegal. You cannot do that. And this is inarguably them redacting names of people that are not victims. It's craziness, and it's so blatant, it's right in your face, like the proof is in the pudding, and yet I know people are going to deny it still. It's fucking unhinged. There is no world where you can spin a narrative here where these redactions in these places make sense, because there's no way that what they're talking about right there can possibly be minors or victims. These are co-conspirators that are being protected. That's fucking insanity.
But anyways, you can see that it says attempts were made to blank and Brunel. That's Jean-Luc Brunel, the famous who's now dead. Blank is confirmed to live in New York, was away for the holiday weekend. We did not have a good address, but an attempt was made in New York. Attempts are made to Maxwell today. Blank, you get it. Like, it's all the people they suspected this whole time are redacted, of course. And then they say, I do not know about Ohio contacting Wexner. Now, that's a reference to Les Wexner, the former CEO of Victoria's Secret. This is huge. We've long suspected that he was, of course, one of the co-conspirators. And obviously, the fact the FBI suspected it isn't a 100% proof confirmation, but clearly they were serving grand jury subpoenas. I mean, that must be who they're talking about, one wealthy businessman in Ohio, because later it's confirmed by this whole idea of Ohio contacting Wexner.
Even though most of the names are redacted, it's not all of them. So Wexner's name appears here, as well as Brunel, but as CoffeeZilla mentioned, he's dead. He's already burning in hell right now. But Wexner, this was someone that they grand jury subpoenaed, seemingly, and I don't think I've heard a peep about any kind of consequences or justice being served over there, or any kind of like pursuit on analyzing his connections here to all of this, even though he is here in one of the emails here about being a co-conspirator. What happened there? The well ran dry or something? Like, it turns out he was completely innocent? That seems kind of hard to believe. That'd be a surprising, shocking twist, more so than a fucking Darman video. I don't know about that. That seems a little fishy. And again, why are other names here blacked out? Why are co-conspirators being protected? Why aren't their identities being revealed? Food for thought.
And you can see at the bottom, this is from the FBI New York. When you get a chance, give me an update on the status of the 10 co-conspirators. This is really bad to know that we knew as early as 2019 the right people to target, and yet our FBI, who's had evidence of this the entire time, or leads on it, has declined to prosecute. right? Because this is what the FBI now tells us. Oh, don't bother. Don't worry about it. That's what they wanted us to believe in July. Fast forward to December, we find out there's 10 guys that they knew about since like 6 years ago. It's insane.
It is insane because their position has been like, oh, there was nothing actionable in there. So, stop asking us. Just pipe down. We're busy covering shit up. Stop asking questions has basically been the philosophy. Our hands are tied. There was nothing. It's all a hoax. Actually, no, the files are on Pam Bondi's desk. No, the files don't exist. It's all a hoax. Wait, actually, here's a ton of fucking files. Nothing's actionable, though. And according to Kash Patel, it was just Jeffrey Epstein. Nobody else. Why? It doesn't go deeper than that. That's it. Case closed. It's a fucking mess. It's a complete circus. And now that we have this kind of information out there, it's even more sickening to know that they are just blatantly protecting these pedophiles, these evil, evil people that engaged in unthinkably heinous actions. They are still getting away with it. And they know, and have known since 2019 apparently, that there are others out there, still at large, and are just not doing anything about it, and would instead rather lie saying, oh, there's nothing actionable or anything. Yeah, there was really nothing in there at all. In fact, it was all make-believe. In fact, Jeffrey Epstein was never real in the first place. Jeffrey Epstein was the friends made along the way. What are you guys talking about? It's so absurd. It is downright diabolical. The corruption is so blatant, it is right in your face. And even when we are getting drip-fed the tiniest tiddlywinks of information about this case that have been heavily redacted, mind you, we are still seeing just how depraved this is. There is so much evidence that they can't even sweep it all under the rug. We are still finding just how bad this is. Now just imagine what they're keeping from you and covering up and what they've already probably burned and fucking snapped out of existence. And imagine if they actually did follow the rules here and only redact victim information. Just imagine how many people we could point to as blatantly corrupt and needing to be thrown in jail. For the last 6 years, having this kind of information and not acting on it. And to this day, having so many people in the highest levels of government denying its existence and trying to pretend that it's all fucking phony baloney, make-believe, dirty barnacles, horseradish, it's a hoax, it's not real, that kind of thing. Can you imagine if this information did actually properly release with only victims' information redacted?
Even over here, we see that in one of the lawsuits, I believe this is with Maxwell, the government actually wanted to refer to people at trial as co-conspirators of the defendant, aka Maxwell, for the purposes of a rule. And then they say Jeffrey Epstein, and then there are two names listed there who are going to be listed as co-conspirators. Again, who are those people? We were told that the only co-conspirator now is Maxwell, and if you don't believe that, you're crazy, you're a conspiracy theorist. But back in 2020, this was a idea not just promulgated by wackos, it was promulgated by who? The FBI themselves, the Department of Justice. Look at this. Co-conspirator question transcript. This is from USA NYS. They say, question, when Jeffrey Epstein died, a lot of people asked, who's next? Is the government going to hold people who are accused of helping him recruit these girls? Are they going to hold them accountable? And then the answer is, well, I'll note that the original charges against Jeffrey Epstein contained a conspiracy charge, and we allege that there were conspirators involved. Jeffrey Epstein couldn't have done what he did without the assistance of others. And I can assure you that our investigation is moving forward, except I guess not.
Yeah, that investigation hit a brick wall. That investigation went off the tracks and fell into a fucking nitroglycerin facility and just blew up, because that shit has not been pursued clearly. As CoffeeZilla mentions, this idea of there being more than just Epstein and Maxwell, the highest level of authority has been saying, you're crazy if you believe that, you are falling for, nonsense fairy tale garbage. But even the FBI years ago was saying the same things internally here. And even agreeing that it couldn't have been done alone. They were even moving to call other people associated with this co-conspirators. Information redacted on those names there. But they knew certain individuals to target for this that they were going to be looking into with the investigation and assuring them that the investigation is moving forward on these co-conspirators, and then it doesn't. Why did it magically stop? What happened? what changed. And why, if all of this information is still at the government's fingertips, do they continue to lie and pretend as though it doesn't exist and that there's nothing here at all that the public didn't already know? They've already given out justice by sending Maxwell to a summer camp. You know, that's all they can do. That's the only power they can muster here.
And what's even more concerning is our president also seems concerned with the wrong people.
The victims were protesting that too many of them were redacted.
I know there are a lot of people that are angry about all of the pictures of other people, you know, but I think it's terrible. Look, I like Bill Clinton. I've always gotten along with Bill Clinton. I've been nice to him. He's been nice to me. We've always gotten along. Respect him. I hate to see photos come out of him, but this is what the Democrats, mostly Democrats, and a couple of bad Republicans are asking for. So they're giving their photos of me, too. Everybody was friendly with this guy. I think it's a terrible thing. I think Bill Clinton's a big boy. He can handle it. But you probably have pictures being exposed of other people that innocently met Jeffrey Epstein years ago, many years ago.
What an interesting perspective. That is a fascinating thing for him to harp on so much about, like, well, we got to think about all the innocent people that met with Jeffrey Epstein. You know, that's what we should be focusing on, and how damaging and how traumatizing this must be for them, those innocent people that hung out with Jeffrey Epstein, you know, all the lawyers and bankers and all of them. Heart breaks for them. Bill Clinton, I can't believe he got wrapped up in this. Love that guy. This is a crazy set of circumstances. He's a big boy, though. Side note, Bill Clinton apparently just put out a statement this afternoon saying release the entirety of the files. So Bill Clinton's like, just do it, pussy. That was a crazy plot twist I certainly didn't expect, because I can't imagine a world where Bill Clinton isn't also wrapped up in this shit. I think that guy is beyond guilty. I bet he had a whole fucking lodge named after him on Epstein's Island. Like, I find it hard to believe that somehow he'd walk out of this squeaky clean. Sounds like mutually assured destruction here, and Bill Clinton's just throwing his meat on the table, challenging him to do so, and I guess we'll see how it all shakes out from there. The thing is that CoffeeZilla is pointing out, Trump's focus is more about, like, there's innocent people here. We have to keep in mind, think of the innocent multi-millionaire and billionaires that didn't know Jeffrey Epstein for all the bad stuff. They just knew him for cracking jokes and stuff, and, you know, just being a guy, just being one of the dudes. Like, why is that what you're focusing on? Why wouldn't you instead be focusing on trying to catch all of the people that have just completely been swept under the rug? Why would that not be the focus? Why instead would you be pretending none of this is real, it's all a hoax? That's very peculiar. I think that's pretty concerning. And when you do have an opportunity to release the files, why are they so heavily redacted with hundreds and hundreds of pages completely blacked out? That looks very guilty. That looks like a really big admission of guilt.
Now, I'll be honest, he gets off track from here, but the point he was making is that those poor, innocent, you know, bankers who were meeting with Epstein, the poor lawyers who were meeting with Epstein, like all of Epstein's friends are just caught up in this unfortunate thing. And it's just such a reversal of what previously the DOJ and FBI believed. In fact, they believed it so much that they got a federal search warrant for the SDNY, and they got it, and part of the seizable data, part of the stuff that they commanded them to seize as part of the search warrant, and part of it says evidence concerning the identity or location of co-conspirators of Jeffrey Epstein, including blank and Ghislaine Maxwell. So again, who is blank? Well, they keep redacting the names of these co-conspirators, uncharged, remember, and now they're saying we have no evidence to charge anybody. Clearly, they had evidence for a search warrant, and it's just completely ridiculous that some of this stuff is redacted and that we're viewing the rich and powerful people who are mentioned as the victims here.
Once again, just further evidence that they are indeed scrubbing the name of co-conspirators. These are not victims or minors that they are taking the names out of here. Thus, they are breaking the rules of how this is supposed to go. It is blatant, this cover-up. There is no world where that is somehow a victim there, yet their name has been redacted. Why? Why are they hiding the co-conspirators' identities? It's fucking outrageous. And people should be very mad about this. But I have no doubt, again, it's 5 a.m. right now, so I haven't seen like the full response to all of this now being out there, but I know there's going to be people that are butt chugging the Kool-Aid to such an unbelievable degree that the delusion has fully taken hold that they're going to go through these mental gymnastics to explain why actually there's nothing fishy going on here. This is totally normal. They did everything by the book and you're making a mountain out of a molehill. Clearly the most transparent administration in American history at work here, obviously. Which just, again, you have so much evidence to prove that this is not by the book here. This is indeed a co-conspirator's name and many other examples of co-conspirators' names being redacted. Not victims, not minors. Unless they're trying to say that these names here are victims, these people that are potentially co-conspirators of Epstein, they're also victims. And in that case, you need to be institutionalized ASAP if that's what you think. That is a fucking crazy take. But I guess it's not the most outrageous thing to picture someone believing when you have someone like Trump who continues to just drive that point home, where it seems like he's not even really focused on the actual victims of Epstein and all of his clients. He's instead more focused on like, oh, the innocent guys, we used to, just go watch the ball game together with Jeffrey Epstein. They had no idea, and my heart breaks for them. Oh, Bill Clinton playing a song on my world's smallest violin. Like, he's just constantly bringing up, like, oh, so many innocent people. They're getting wrapped up in all this Epstein hoopla. I can't believe we're still talking about it. You're a bad person if you're talking about it, which is something he did say, by the way, not too long ago. I highly recommend you go check out the rest of CoffeeZilla's video. He also gives you the tutorial on how you can get your hands on these files as well to check them all for yourself. Now, after combing through them, there were some other big eyebrow-raising moments. One of them, CoffeeZilla also tweeted out. This is from a U.S. attorney who wrote in 2020, Donald Trump traveled on Epstein's private jet many more times than previously has been reported or that we were aware, including during the period we would expect to charge in a Maxwell case. And then it concludes with, on 2 other flights, 2 of the passengers respectively were women who would be possible witnesses in a Maxwell case. We've just finished reviewing the full records, more than 100 pages of very small script, and didn't want any of this to be a surprise down the road. I noticed Trump's name in quite a few documents in this most recent volume. This has been one that is obviously pretty interesting because it's talking about his frequent flyer miles that he was accumulating with old Epstein Airlines, about how he had flown on the airlines far more than they had thought at the time. Now, whether that's before or after all the flight logs, which does show Trump flying on the planes quite a bit, I don't know. Maybe there's more that weren't on the flight logs. I'm not sure. Again, all of this is still brand new. And I guess as more gets combed through, we'll get more and more information. But like I said, I have been glued to this for hours now. And I really just wanted to yap about it because there is some crazy shit in here. This is finally, for the first time in a long time, big new information in regards to this case and people involved in it, and exposing a blatant cover-up of very important information from these files. Now, it's very late in the evening and all of this is still very fresh. I have no doubt there will be a lot more that comes from this. So I'm just going to try and keep my finger on the pulse of it. I already have no doubt there will be a large number of people that'll plug their ears to it and downplay the significance. I already saw a crazy tweet from some psychopath named Mila. I have no idea who this troglodyte is, but they are now already singing a different tune about why does anyone care about the Epstein files, which is something that was previously tried. Now, in the wake of all of this, it's being dusted off to try again. I truly hope there won't come a time where people start to say that this isn't a big deal, that this isn't something people should care about. This is a massive deal and everyone should care about this because it implicates the people that control your life. The people in the highest level of power in this country that are actively making decisions on your life and how everything unfolds in this country. And if the people that are in these positions are these evil pedophiles that have been getting away with these crimes, then there's a huge problem there. They need to be held accountable and face justice. You shouldn't want to be ruled and controlled by people that were Epstein clients. Like, I don't know how insane people have become recently, where now they are with a straight face trying to say that Epstein isn't something you should care about, get over it. That blows my mind. Mila Joy, I suppose, gets her joy from the suffering of children and does so with a big smile on her face. She doesn't care that children were being trafficked and raped by potentially the most powerful people in this country. She doesn't care. She doesn't want them unmasked or thrown in jail. She couldn't care less about that. That's pretty fucking unhinged, Mila. All I can do is cross my fingers and hope and pray that there's not a ton of people with a poisoned, smooth brain like she has. I am hoping there's sensible people out there that are seeing all of this unfold in real time and finally having that come to Jesus moment, that eureka moment of, wow, there's something very, very bad afoot here. But anyway, I'll stop yapping about it for now. I guess we'll see what else comes from Volume 8 here of the Epstein Files. Huge hats off to everyone that played a role in helping preserve that initial dump of these files, because I have a sneaking suspicion when these are officially released, when they pop up again, they might not be in the same state. I'm thinking there might be further redactions to them. It's just a hunch. I guess we'll see. Anyway, that's really about it. See ya. Get your protractor out, nerd, because I'm ranting Wumbo style right now. I am so tired of the Epstein files being treated like it's Half-Life 3, where there's all these like leaks being teased all the time and then nothing. Nothing ever happens. Just release the files. It's been years, and it feels like every 6 months there's like this big push, like, they're finally coming, it's on the way, batten down the hatches because you're not ready for this bombshell, and then poof, what? Nothing new. The reason I'm ranting about this is because yesterday I kept reading and kept being told, like, tomorrow's the big day. The Epstein files are finally fully declassified and all of it's coming out tomorrow. The dam has broken, we're gonna know everyone's names, and we're not ready for it because there's names on there you'd never expect, like, fucking Commander Shepard's on there, you know? The Citadel has been compromised. Like, it's like, okay, finally, it's about time, you know? All this red tape, we finally got around it. Good, let's release it. Well, now it's tomorrow, and all I have seen, some people have this binder that they're all holding that says Epstein Files Phase 1, and they're doing this. They're taking prom photos with it. They're just cheesing on top of the binder and still not releasing it. If what you have there are the Epstein files, why don't you make like a fart trapped in my butt and release it? Instead, they're just taking like these photo ops, like they're just looking for Instagram updates. Like, what the fuck? It's starting to just feel completely performative. It's feeling like it's just banished to the shadow realm forever. Because I have seen this as a talking point for a while now when people are looking for like approval on things or trying to get into a position of power. I've seen this as a big talking point, like, hey, if you choose me, when I get in there, come hell or high water, I don't care whose feelings get hurt, I'm releasing the Epstein files. I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna take a power stance, lat spread, and teabag this shit, going right into the department, marching in there, slapping the files out of their hand, and I'm putting it in the American public's hands. Take my word for it. Well, now there's a lot of people that can do that, and it's still not happening. The names are still not being released. The most we ever get is these little tiddlywinks of Epstein file morsels that have been known for years, and they parade it around like it's new info. It's so stupid, and I'm beyond tired of it, because there is no doubt so much redacted information that is still not publicly known that I'm fully confident they have access to, especially judging by these pictures they're all posing with, like, here's the Epstein files, I've got them right here. Well, how about you open it and let us take a peek inside if we're that close to releasing it? Like, today was supposed to be the day. At least that's everything I kept reading and getting told. So when is it? When will we finally know all of these names and all of this information? Because it has been so long of the same song and dance. Now, as I've been making this video, a new article just dropped that states that after review of the release documents from today, most of the information has been heavily redacted and previously reported. Also, it's called into question if the information was ever even classified in the first place, and it's drawing, of course, heavy criticism because apparently it boils down to being some of Epstein's phone book. And now I just read another article that said it's being pushed to tomorrow because the FBI director is withholding thousands of pages. It's such a mess. Like, I am fully expecting tomorrow to roll around and still nothing to be there. Hopefully I'm wrong about that. We'll see. But based on what I'm reading from the people that did have access to this huge new information, it boils down to mostly redacted shit, as well as things we already knew, and then some of Epstein's phone book. So when are we actually getting the meat and potatoes, the fucking spaghetti and meatballs of all of these Epstein names and all of this absolutely evil shit that they apparently have had access to for so long but still haven't released? It just feels like I'm perpetually reading BuzzFeed slop headlines in regards to this. The first arrest will shock you. The Epstein files are coming. Okay, that's exciting. When? I'm ready to be shocked. When's that first arrest happening? Why hasn't it happened yet? Like, who is it? Who are you trying to catch? Is it fucking Adam Warlock? Like, why can't we get a handle on them? When is that first arrest happening? Like, if these headlines just keep popping up over and over and over again in regards to the Epstein files, and then there's still nothing that ever gets released. It's at the point now where I really feel like there might not ever be an arrest that comes from it, and there may never come a point where the Epstein files ever get fully released. I also read a couple days ago that allegedly the FBI was working to delete some of the files, so it's just such a fucking disaster. It's so infuriating. And I keep hearing time and time again, like, it's coming, it's almost here. It's set your alarm clock. But it's become like the Bloodborne 2 of documents. It just doesn't exist, it feels like. I guess when Jeffrey Epstein mysteriously found a way to kill himself in prison, like, you know, Tony Stark of Suicide, he killed himself with nothing but a box of scraps and toilet paper. Somehow, all of the evidence and everything he had vanished with him. And now it only lives on in headlines occasionally about, like, well, it's coming, maybe. No, it's actually coming this time, and then it never does. But again, hopefully I'm wrong. Maybe tomorrow is the big day with a lot of new information, a lot of new names, and maybe, God willing, some fucking consequences for the people on the Epstein list. Here's hoping. Fingers crossed. But anyway, just wanted to rant about this briefly. That's about it. So, yep. There's been a lot going on in regards to the Epstein files and been a bunch of emails that have come out. It's been kind of a smorgasbord of new information, surprisingly. And there's even apparently going to be a full release of the Epstein files. It's been voted on, it's passed, but I'll believe it when I see it. I've talked about this on stream. I am fully expecting this to be the same shit, different toilet, repackaging the same material that's been released from the Epstein files 5 times now. I swear to God, these Epstein files have been remastered more times than Last of Us. They keep re-releasing the same information over and over again with a different coat of paint. They're not actually releasing new Epstein files, but they keep pretending that they are, or that what they drop is new Epstein file information. But when you actually look at it, it's the same thing that was released years ago. That's what I'm expecting here, but I would love to be proven wrong. I would love if this is finally some real unredacted new information that implicates some horrible evil people and real punishment comes their way. Actual justice for the victims. We'll see. I have my skepticism about that. But another thing that's happened in regards to everything Epstein related is those emails that the committee has released. And there's a lot of mysteries there, of course, the biggest being who is Bubba and what cock was in Trump's mouth potentially. And along with that, there are a lot of other people that have now been thrust into the spotlight here for their close association with Epstein, one of them being a goober named Larry Summers. Now, maybe I'm just a Neanderthal who's living under a rock, but I'd never heard of Lawrence Summers until this. But just look at the political power he's had for so many decades now. He was the 8th director of the National Economic Council under Barack Obama's presidency. He was the president of Harvard from 01 to 06. He was also the United States Secretary of Treasury under Clinton. This is a very powerful guy. And when these emails came out, people were quick to notice Lawrence Summers was very chummy with Jeffrey Epstein, even going as far as to have Epstein as his fucking wingman. He was trying to suck farts out of Jeffrey Epstein's ass looking for tiddlywinks of advice on how he could fuck one of his students, a mentee, as he referred to her as. It is so creepy. It is vile, disgusting shit. Larry Summers has been married since 2005. These texts and emails were from 2018 to 2019, him trying to get Jeffrey Epstein's input on how he can have sex with this student of his, and it's just this series of whiny messages from him, this pathetic loser-ass shit that you'd probably find in, like, the foulest corners of Reddit. And Larry, no carry about his marriage, Summers, is begging on his hands and knees for Jeffrey Epstein to bless him with the guidance so he could have sex with this mentee of his. It is so fucking gross. And these are just what is now publicly available in their messages exchanged. Like, it is probably a lot deeper than this connection between Larry Summers and Jeffrey Epstein. This is just what they have, like, physical evidence of with these messages. I have no doubt Larry Summers being this close, where Jeffrey Epstein will refer to himself as Larry's wingman, I have no doubt these two have probably been in cahoots for a long fucking time. It is scary. Now, I also saw a clip here that someone recorded in their class at Harvard where Larry teaches. And he actually addressed what students were seeing from all of the Epstein information. This was after he made his statement of regret about his connection, calling it like a major error in judgment to communicate with Jeffrey Epstein, the most infamous pedophile in our fucking history. And he had a little bit to say about all of this, hoopla going on.
Some of you will have seen my statement of regret, expressing my shame with respect to what I did in communication with Mr. Epstein, and that I've said that I'm going to step back from public activity for a time, but I think it's very important to fulfill my teaching obligations. And so, with your permission, we're going to go forward and talk about the material in the class.
No, Larry, you don't have my permission to continue teaching. How about instead of going over the material, you go over to the nearest prison and throw yourself in one of the fucking cells? Because it feels like the justice system's never going to do that for anyone that's closely associated with Jeffrey Epstein and all of his fucking crimes. So why don't you take it upon yourself to do that for us? Now, this video's like a day and a half old. There was an update to this story last night. He is not going to be finishing his teaching obligations at Harvard. They're investigating his ties to child sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein, and they have made the correct decision to remove him from his position teaching here, which to me sounds like a no-brainer. One of the things in the emails that was revealed is Larry Summers trying to fuck his mentee, one of his students that he was mentoring. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to keep him in that position. That's like keeping the big bad wolf in a classroom with a bunch of little piggies there. So that was the right call, taking him off of that position during this investigation. And I feel like it's probably a pretty easy investigation when there's already a ton of evidence to his close ties to Jeffrey Epstein. The question that remains is, how close are those ties? Did he visit the island? It seems like he was very buddy-buddy with Jeffrey Epstein. I cannot imagine that these 2018 and 2019 exchanges are like the only things that they ever talked about. If I was a betting man, I would make a strong wager that this communication is not the first time they've been closely talking. I don't think Jeffrey Epstein would jokingly call himself Summers' wingman based off of only a few text messages over the course of that year. I would wager that they have been very close for a long time, and I imagine Larry Summers is implicated very deeply in a lot of the Epstein files that we just haven't seen all of yet. And it seems like that hunch is corroborated by a lot of outlets reporting that his correspondence with Epstein had extended for over a decade after Epstein had already been sent to jail for soliciting a minor for prostitution. So it's not like Larry Summers wouldn't know this about Jeffrey Epstein. He was talking to him all the way up until like the day before he got arrested in 2019. There's no way Larry didn't know who Jeffrey Epstein was and what was going on there. I just don't believe that. He can call it like an error in judgment all he wants, but he literally had already been arrested for soliciting a minor for prostitution, and that is the guy that Larry Summers was going to frequently for advice on trying to fuck one of his students. I feel like there is no world where Larry Summers wasn't closely tied to Jeffrey Epstein for a long time and wasn't privy to what was going on behind the scenes with Epstein's operation and all of that shit going on there. Now, going back to that video briefly, I find it baffling that Harvard didn't immediately relieve him of his position after the information came out, like while they were about to conduct an investigation. I don't know why he was allowed to go into the classroom and give his statement, like his POV on everything here, and it seems like was even going to continue teaching in some capacity to this classroom. He went in there with, his PR speech like, hey guys, listen, look, you may have read some not so good yucky things about me and Mr. Epstein. I know, not a great look, but we have to remember your minds are hungry and I'm the chef. It's my duty to teach you, so we're here. Get your pen and paper out. Let's go, Poindexters. I have a teaching obligation to fulfill, and I plan on doing that. Also, unrelated to everything, I have slots available for mentorship if anyone wants to be mentored by me, to see me after class. Anyway, though, it's time to get back to the teaching. Like, it's so weird to me. Like, I understand they need to investigate the claims, but while doing so, he shouldn't have been allowed back in the classroom in the first place to teach or say that he is going to be able to continue teaching. Like, addressing the elephant in the room is somehow enough, and now all of a sudden he's allowed to be able to still give lectures. Who the fuck is going to want to sit there and listen to this guy who is apparently close friends with Jeffrey Epstein? I'm surprised everyone didn't immediately just get out of their seats and walk out of the class. Maybe they did. It's a very short video. It's entirely possible they did. I just find it odd, is all. Anyway, just wanted to yap a bit about Larry Summers for a bit, and that's really about it. So, yep. Alright, man. This new tactic that they're pulling out for the Epstein files that they're really digging in deep in the John Madden playbook for is unbelievably ridiculous, even by the standards the circus has already set. This is like if I pissed on your head, but didn't even try and call it rain, I just called it piss. I just say, hey Buster, I'm urinating on you. And you're just supposed to thank me for it. Last night there was a big bombshell breaking. All Epstein files released. Pam Bondi announces DOJ has released all Epstein files under the Epstein Files Transparency Act, including justified redactions and a list of high-profile names appearing in these documents. When I saw that fresh little nugget drop there, I actually thought that there was a huge Epstein file dump where they actually did unredact everything. Maybe Pam Bondi getting biblically smacked down at that hearing the other day and embarrassing herself actually did lead to these files coming out, the remainder of them. But it turns out that's just a fucking lie. That's just a big-time, full-blown fib. And of course, it was a speed run to Community Noted as people went to check, only to learn there are no new files. What's being referred to here are the same files that came out a few weeks ago, the 3.5 million files from a couple weeks ago. And now the new thing here is, I guess after Pam Bondi got fucking farmed on Rust by anyone with even a single semblance of a brain at that hearing, she huffed and puffed and then farted out a giant list of names from anyone that was even mentioned anywhere, which includes people like Janis Joplin, who died when Epstein was 17. So this has naturally been called out by a lot of people saying, to have Janis Joplin, who died when Epstein was 17, in the same list as Larry Nassar, who went to prison for the sexual abuse of hundreds of young women and child pornography, with no clarification of how either was mentioned in the files, is absurd, which it is. It's done on purpose with the sole intent of confusing and muddying everything here. They combined the actual, real, evil child sex trafficking clients with just random people's names who appeared in emails like Janis Joplin. This is ridiculous, and it's just blatantly corrupt right in your face. There is no new files here. That is just a lie. Yet for some reason, it's being peddled by tons of people as if it's real. I guess they all got the call, so Alex Jones here preaching about how Pam Bondi just unleashed the full Epstein files. She dropped her trousers and took a shit on this whole narrative that the Epstein files implicate anyone in this administration. In fact, it backfired bigly on the left, on powerful Dems like Bill Clinton. And others busted while fake smears against Trump are bullshit. Vindication for Trump. It's crazy how Alex Jones, for years, was talking about this elite pedophile ring that was raping and torturing and killing children, and now he is finally proven beyond a shadow of a doubt to be right. He was completely correct on that, and now he has to pussyfoot around the subject, just tiptoeing, walking on eggshells because some of his friends are in there. Dude went from secretly filming Bohemian Grove to being best buddies with its members. So now, we all know that this is correct. Alex Jones could have taken a victory lap on this shit, but instead he's been preoccupied with 6'7" Labubu and whatever other dog shit that is, and anytime he mentions the Epstein files, he has to do so with Trump's cock in his throat about it. He only focuses on those easy, low-hanging fruit of the Epstein files like Bill Clinton. Alex Jones explores the Epstein files like this, with his hands over his eyes, really scared, making sure to put on the blinders so he could block out all of his friends' names, so he could laser focus on easy shit like Bill Clinton, who everybody knows is guilty in all of this. Real groundbreaking stuff, Goober. It's incredible what a paid shill this guy is. And I just saw he's doing like a press tour about how all of this is the result of Trump, by the way. He went in there and said, you gotta release this now. It's time we fucking release everything unredacted. No more, softball in it. As if Trump was the reason this happened. Even after, for a whole year, Trump has been saying it's a hoax. It's not real. Move on, move on, move on. We gotta stop caring about this Epstein stuff. Does anyone still care about this? No one in America cares about this. Yeah, Alex, I'm sure Trump is the one that went in there and really strong-armed the release of anything. And again, Alex Jones is saying all the files are released now. That is just provably false. That is not true. There are no new files that Pam Bondi just released, Alex. It should be obvious to anyone paying attention, or even just a smidgen of attention. You don't even have to, have your eyes glued to it or anything. Even just glancing should be pretty clear, painting an obvious picture that the powers that be are using Alex Jones as a very convenient mouthpiece to regurgitate their shit and defend them, and do a lot of sweeping for them. We are in an era where you have this information at your fingertips, and they are telling you, disregard what your eyes can see and listen to us and nothing else. It's so fucking scary, because people are willingly doing it. You can check yourself to see if there are new files that dropped, and it only takes a couple of seconds to get the real answer. No new files have dropped. You can find the truth yourself, and it takes seconds. And they know that, so they're relying on you just being too lazy and too blind and too much of a sheep, so they can just feed you things and have you believe them without bothering to check. So they can just lie and say that Pam Bondi just unleashed the nuke on Epstein. All of it's right there, and it's only Democrats. Look at that! Backfired bigly. And you won't bother to check it yourself. It's craziness, and it sucks that it works so well. If you do bother to do any amount of actual research on the Epstein files, you'll find it's more than just Democrats. It's Democrats and it's Republicans. It's a ton of the world's most powerful people that have engaged in some of the most unthinkable, evil actions imaginable. And these monsters, these fucking worms, treat it like a joke. CoffeeZilla just made a video on it. Howard Lutnick in particular, he's always busting a gut laughing anytime Epstein's even brought up.
I am increasingly disgusted by the way this is all a big joke to liars like Howard Lutnick, who deceive the American public about the status of his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
That guy was there. I wasn't going.
Now he testifies under oath that he actually went to the island of the creep and brought his kids.
We had lunch on the island. That is true, for an hour, and we left with all of my children.
Nevertheless, every time Epstein is brought up, this guy can't stop chuckling. Here's Lutnick laughing again when Trump is addressing a question about Epstein.
To talk about how to respond to the Epstein situation.
I don't know. I could ask you that question.
He thinks it's the funniest thing he's ever heard. And maybe it's because they really think we are buying it. Maybe it's because they think, hey, we're just going to get away with this. We can just keep, the lies are so brazen.
They are literally laughing in your face about it. They know they're getting away with it. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. It's just so brazen, like CoffeeZilla said. And then you have people like Alex Jones that are just parroting that same shit like, everyone's absolved except for the people we don't like. And also, by the way, even if it was only the people you don't like that are implicated here and guilty, why aren't they being arrested? Ask yourself that question. Why aren't the people like Bill Clinton being arrested? Why is nobody getting arrested for the Epstein files? I know I've already said this, but even if the only people that were guilty in here are the people you personally don't like, why wouldn't Trump and this administration be going fucking full throttle, whole hog at them, trying to throw them in the slammer? Food for thought, I suppose. Perhaps it's because they know if they went down, it would put them at risk too, because it's not just the people you don't like. You are just so focused on the ones you don't like that you'll block out all of the other shit. You will not use your own fucking brain. Now, another big thing that's come out that it seems like a lot of mainstream media and a lot of Twitter personalities refuse to speak on is Epstein's potential ties to Israel. It's very weird. Yet no one really seems to want to talk about that connection. Why is that? I just find it odd how you have so many Twitter patriots and mainstream outlets that just outright ignore this potential connection of Epstein and Israel. And Israel is a very important subject in American politics, it seems. Politicians can't stop praising them, glazing them, and Trump in particular, his mouth has become a glory hole for Netanyahu. So don't you think it would be something worth talking about and investigating if there is potentially a tie between Epstein and Israel? I mean, I feel like that would be something that a lot of people would want to know more information about to find out if it's true or not or what's going on there. Because again, every politician in this country, this administration and even previous administrations love to bend over for Israel.
I came into Congress 13 years ago with the stated intention of being the leading defender of Israel in the United States Senate. Right. And I've worked every day to do that.
We need America to wake up and prioritize Israel and bring home Israelis and make sure we stand by our number one ally in Israel.
That's right. What cause is dear to your heart?
Cause is dear to my Israel. Defense of Israel.
What is number one?
I have said to people when they ask me if this Capitol crumbled to the ground, the one thing that would remain is our commitment to our aid, and I don't even call it aid, our cooperation with Israel. That's fundamental to fundamental.
Miriam Adelson is amazing. What she has done for Israel, for our country, and for this world is second to none. Thank you, my friend. The sad truth is, for way too long, anti-Semitism has been allowed to grow unchecked in this country. Too many institutions have abdicated their moral responsibility to speak up.
There's an additional 100 clips I probably could have pulled, but these were the ones that were top of mind, and I think it's pretty clear that Israel is an extremely important subject to the powerful politicians in this country. Fucking Ted Cruz goes as far as to say it's the sole reason he got into politics is to defend them. I've said it before, I'll say it again, I don't know how that's not treasonous. He is a representative in our country who is openly stating that his priorities are a foreign entity. Whatever, I guess. I suppose that's fine by today's standards. I don't really get how. And boy howdy, isn't that Nancy Pelosi statement quite the eye-opener. Even if everything crumbles over here, we will still find a way to honor our aid to Israel. We'll start botting in RuneScape if that's what it takes to make enough money to send it to Israel. Damn everything else here, that's the most important part. Pretty crazy shit, I would think. I feel like maybe I'm on the crack pipe here, but that should be a little concerning that the politicians that are supposed to be representing this country seem much more focused on the interests of another. But anyway, my point is, with the release of all of these Epstein files, even though hundreds of the files are just completely worthless garbage that are fully fucking redacted, just nothings, there is still a lot that remains that showcases a potential connection of Epstein and Israel. Now, of course, nothing's confirmed or anything, but shouldn't that at least warrant some kind of investigation, at least some kind of poking around? This administration is very blunt about how little they care about the Epstein files. They literally say that. Trump always talks about how no one should care about this and move on. And also, they're very open about, we're probably not going to look to investigate anything. There's nothing actionable in there. Whoops-a-daisy. Can't do anything about it. Sorry. And, of course, Perjury Patel just continues to lie about it. But anyone that actually takes a peek at it should at least find it odd that a lot of these outlets, like journalist outlets, a lot of politicians, and a lot of the paid shills online are not talking about the Epstein-Israel connection in any capacity whatsoever. And when they do talk about Epstein as a potential spy, they always make a mention of CIA, or, maybe not being a CIA spy, but never going as far as to talk about a potential connection to Israel. That should be very weird. Why is that something no one would talk about when Israel is such a huge piece of this country, apparently? Why wouldn't that be something that would be more discussed by the mainstream? It's all so blatantly corrupt. Anyway, just wanted to yap about this latest lie. That's really about it. See ya. Wow. Actually, huge wow. A massive batch of Epstein files just dropped in hot, fresh off the battle bus here from the top turnbuckle out of nowhere. I didn't think we'd even see any more with the DOJ putting up that huge stink even recently about like how courts can't force them to release it, this and that. It seemed like this was never going to happen because getting them to comply with the law was like pulling teeth. So they were a month late, but they actually released like millions of Epstein files. And there are huge, disgusting, evil things that have been uncovered in this latest batch of Epstein files. This time around, it's a little different than their previous release where there were hundreds of pages of blacked out redactions, and that was basically it. This is what you saw with the Epstein files, except I thought that was going to make the camera go black. You get the idea. It was basically just staring into the fucking void. It was just pitch black because everything was redacted. It was just a lot of nothing. But even amidst that nothing, they were so fucking incompetent that they left in the ability to unredact the files yourself, where people were able to catch them breaking the law, where a lot of the redacted names were not names of victims. They were various other things, and a lot of the redactions were clearly not victims. Sometimes it even seemed like the redactions were there to protect the names of potential clients and perpetrators, which again is a complete violation of the Epstein Files Transparency Act that they were supposed to be following. But again, even with them farting out completely blacked out pages to protect these pedophiles in power, there were still a lot of huge revelations that came from this, such as co-conspirators that for some reason they never pursued. We don't know who they were because their names have been redacted conveniently, but we learned that there were co-conspirators they were investigating, and I guess they just let the leads dry up and then just said, fiddlesticks, they're gone. Now time to pretend they don't exist. Like Kash Patel under oath lying about it. Perjury Patel, by the way, still not punished for it. And speaking of unpunished, you know who else has been unpunished? Every fucking Epstein client, all of these rapists and pedophiles, all of them still just getting away with these unthinkable crimes. No one being handcuffed and thrown in the slammer. Doesn't even seem like they're pursuing any investigations or anything into it. Across 2 administrations now, no fucking arrests outside of Maxwell, who Trump has done everything in his power to ensure she is treated like a queen at a new summer camp that she now resides at. Barely even a fucking prison. This is lunacy of the highest caliber. Now anyway, I know I'm getting kind of sidetracked here with like the previously on Dragon Ball Z with this whole saga. The most recent batch of Epstein files came out a couple hours ago. Millions of files, so people are still combing through them, but what they are finding is alarming. Trump's name, of course, is all over these files. His name appears more in these Epstein files than Green Eggs and Ham appeared in the fucking Green Eggs and Ham Dr. Seuss book. His name is everywhere with numerous allegations about terrible, awful things. Some things we had heard little bits and pieces about from previous Epstein releases, but this one has significantly more, including this FBI report that claims Trump has been compromised by Israel, which anyone who's been paying attention to this administration shouldn't really be surprised at. I don't think anyone heard that and recoiled in their chair going, what? If anyone's followed everything that's been going on in regards to Trump and Israel, it should be no surprise that the FBI believed he was compromised, is compromised as well, most likely. But this is, again, new information that is hitting the public here from official sources in these Epstein files. These are big. Another huge name appearing in here is Bill Gates. So Bill Gates had an exchange with Jeffrey Epstein, and I think it's been known for a long time Bill Gates was associated with Jeffrey Epstein, but this information here is new that talks about how he contracted an STD apparently and had asked Jeffrey Epstein to provide him with antibiotics that he could secretly dose Melinda with. He had contracted it from Russian girls apparently. Another massive name coming in is Elon Musk, who had an email chain with Jeffrey Epstein that was in these files about him trying to plan a visit to Jeffrey Epstein's island, and he seemed to want to find the wildest party, the best time to come through to the island, and he was trying to make plans to go visit the island. These new files also expose blatant lies that a lot of really powerful people tried to peddle to get themselves out of hot water in regards to their close connection to Jeffrey Epstein, like Howard Lutnick. Howard Lutnick is Trump's commerce secretary, and he claimed he cut ties with Jeffrey Epstein in 2005, yet in these files we can clearly see he was emailing Epstein in 2012 planning a trip out there, saying, "Hi Jeff, we are landing in St. Thomas early Saturday afternoon and planning to head over to St. Bart on Monday at some point. Where are you located? Does Sunday evening for dinner sound good? I have another couple, Michael and Mary Lehrman, with me on my boat, and each of us has 4 children. 2 16s, 2 14s, a 13, a 12, an 11, and a 7-year-old. Thanks, Howard." What a disgusting freak. He's even listing out the ages of the children that are joining them on their planned trip to Epstein's Island. This is in 2012. That's quite a few years after 2005, Howard. Seems like you told a big-time fib. Howard said that he had visited Epstein's house in 2005, but it culminated with him getting the heebie-jeebies. He called him gross and said that was basically kaput. That was the end of his relationship with Epstein. He washed his hands of him back in 2005, but that clearly wasn't true now, was it, Howard? These emails are from 2012, planning a trip out there and making a very odd mention of a bunch of children and their ages that will be joining you to Epstein's Island. Howard Lutnick is your U.S. Secretary of Commerce under Trump right now. This is your Commerce Secretary. And he is one of many very powerful politicians whom you'll find in these new Epstein files and previous Epstein files as well. These are just a few of many names, new names as well, very powerful people who appear in these files with alleged horrible, horrible things that they have done in connection with Jeffrey Epstein and the island. It is a big, big deal. This is undoubtedly just the tip of the iceberg here. This latest batch was millions of files, so there is still a lot of information out there that hasn't been adequately combed through, and still what we are learning right now is heinous. And I feel like it should be pretty obvious that there needs to be investigations conducted here, and maybe a little bit of fucking justice. Maybe some of these evil fucking demons getting arrested, perhaps. Why are none of these people in these Epstein files even being looked into at all? Why does Kash Patel lie under oath about there not being an Epstein list or clients or like co-conspirators when we now have all this available evidence that confirms there definitely were co-conspirators? There definitely are clients. And there is nothing being done, not in this administration, not the previous administration, to hold any of them accountable or find them. This is a huge deal that nobody should be trying to like minimize the importance of. For some reason, people are trying to pretend as though this is something we should just like brush aside, move on from the whole Epstein fiasco. That is craziness. There are people in the most powerful positions of government right now that are rapists and pedophiles that have got away with unthinkable crimes, and they need to be held accountable. We have so much information here. We have so many names, and we need them to be investigated. We need justice. I don't know why so many people are so okay with being governed by these monsters. It's baffling to me. It actually boggles my fucking mind. This latest batch shows even more evidence, shines even more light on these terrible, terrible things that unfolded here, and the close connections a lot of powerful people had to Epstein and the island. I'll continue to look into the files and see what else turns up from all of this. I'll be, of course, keeping my finger on the pulse of it, and I highly encourage all of you to be paying very close attention to it and the people named in these Epstein files, and the people that try and defend it as well. That is unacceptable. This is indefensible. There's no excuse for it. So anyway, wanted to just give you an update here. That's really about it. So yeah. Wow. I don't even know how to appropriately express my shock for what just unfolded here. Best I can do is one of these. Like a Mr. Beast thumbnail. Melania Trump, from out of nowhere, just delivered a speech going over Epstein. The whole thing was more surprising than when people learned Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father. And even more surprising for me, because I only recently learned that Melania can speak. I hadn't heard a peep from her in many, 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 many years. I just assumed she had taken like a vow of silence or something, and that Trump just speaks for her. I only learned that she talks after the trailers for the Melania documentary, which, by the way, is directed by Brett Ratner, who was also present in the Epstein files with some not good photos out there of him. interesting choice to direct her movie. A big part of this press conference was about how it's a bunch of lies that she was like a close associate of Epstein or like a victim of Epstein, and that it was only ever casual correspondence with Maxwell/Epstein, and that the email that recently came out, it's misleading. It's not actually indicative of like a personal connection there. So she tries to defend that and shoot all of that down. And then she also says some things that are directly contradictory to Donald Trump and the entire administration's stance on the Epstein files.
Now is the time for Congress to act. Epstein was not alone.
Those words alone just had Kash Patel shoot up out of his bed in cold sweats, awaken abruptly from his slumber, tinkling his britches, and he's going to need to calm down by butt-chugging some brewskis, because Perjury Patel has maintained that there's no credible evidence that Epstein trafficked minors to anyone. The only person is Epstein and Maxwell. That's it. There's no other clients or anything. But here, the First Lady is saying Congress needs to act and that Epstein wasn't alone. This flies in the face of the official stance of the administration and Donald Trump himself, where they talk about how justice has been served, so get over it. Even Todd Blanche is not even shy about it. Not a crime to party with Epstein. Probably won't be doing any further investigations. Their official stance is that everything that would ever happen with the Epstein files has happened, and that the American people shouldn't care about it, and anyone that does care about it is a bad person. Also, the Epstein files aren't real. They're a Democrat hoax. Meanwhile, from out of nowhere, Melania Trump delivers this speech where she's talking about her relationship to Epstein and how, like, there's a bunch of lies about it and it's all not true, but also how important the Epstein files are and that action needs to be taken, which is very, very much flying in the face of her husband's perspective on it and the administration that has desperately tried to make people forget about it. This came out of nowhere. Melania Trump delivered this at a time where no one was talking about the Epstein files. The media had forgotten about it. The administration got hit by the Men in Black neuralizer, so they didn't even know who Epstein was. They forgot that name entirely. And then Melania Trump comes and does this.
I call on Congress to provide the women who have been victimized by Epstein with a public hearing specifically centered around the survivors. Give these victims their opportunity to testify under oath in front of Congress with the power of sworn testimony. Each and every woman should have her day to tell her story in public if she wishes, and then her testimony should be permanently entered into the congressional record. Then, and only then, we will have the truth. Thank you.
This had to be a huge jump scare to most people in the administration because I don't think they signed off on that. And I read a couple reports that she went rogue and did this without like official approval through the channels of the Epstein administration and their attempts to cover it up at every possible angle imaginable. So if those reports are true, if that's accurate and she did this just willy-nilly, on a whim, I bet the administration is fucking fuming over it. And now she calls for Congress to act, but Melania, get ready for the cold water. That call's coming from inside the house. You need look only in your bedside. Donald Trump is one of the main perpetrators of covering this shit up. His whole administration does everything in their power to bury it. So she is now mentioning the Epstein survivors directly, that's like Voldemort's name to this administration. They do not address the survivors, the victims of Epstein. So that was extremely surprising to hear her directly talk about it and how important it is to hear their testimony. I agree. We should be able to hear more from them and get more information about their experiences here and at least hear from them, which has been something this administration has been desperately trying to avoid, plugging their ears to it. I think she's right when it comes to that. Now, this wasn't the only thing she was addressing during this. The main thing is she was trying to set the record straight on her connection to Epstein and how they weren't close at all and all of these lies that have been spread about her being an Epstein victim or a close associate and pal are just a bunch of hooey, it's all hogwash. Which, again, comes out of nowhere because I hadn't heard those claims come up in months. This has been something the mainstream media has been radio silent on, crickets. So this just came out of nowhere and once again puts it right in people's noodle, brings it, right up front and center, which is great. I mean, actually, it's really wonderful that she decided to start talking about Epstein again in this way, because now, once again, it will remind people of the blatant corruption and the evil, the heinous acts that are being covered up here from this administration. It really is so wild because this was not being discussed all that openly. I do know now, as a result of this, that some email has been shared about her emailing with Epstein and Maxwell or something to that effect, which is something she also talks about in this, so I'm guessing that was probably the catalyst that made her want to do this. But it was something that people weren't really talking about until she brought it up. It's like if I go into a crowded theater and I say, all right, everyone, listen up. I just want to make it clear I did not shit my pants. And I don't want anyone here to think that I did. All right, now that that's out of the way, carry on. It's one of those things where it's like, hey, we weren't even really, thinking about that, but now that you've mentioned it, it makes us think that you might have doo-dooed. Did you poop your pants? I what's bringing this up here?
The lies linking me with the disgraceful Jeffrey Epstein need to end today. The individuals lying about me are devoid of ethical standards, humility, and respect. I do not object to their ignorance, but rather I reject their mean-spirited attempts to defame my reputation. I never been friends with Epstein. Donald and I were invited to the same parties as Epstein from time to time, since overlapping in social circles is common in New York City and Palm Beach.
Just ignore the numerous photos of Melania with Trump and with Jeffrey Epstein and Maxwell. I mean, they're right there at your fingertips, but don't look them up. Clearly, she didn't have a relationship, a friendly relationship with Epstein and Maxwell. She just photographed with them multiple times, that's all, I find it a little hard to believe that they weren't friends or close in some capacity. Jiminy Christmas, again, the director of her documentary that just came out is Brett Ratner, who is in the Epstein files. I imagine they probably met through Epstein. I mean, that's just a hunch. I don't know that for sure, but that's quite a coinky-dink, don't you think? I feel like she doesn't do a good job of, actually convincing people that there's no, connection between her and Epstein and Maxwell, that they weren't really friends, because it flies in the face of what your eyes can see. The photos, the emails that just came out. There's plenty of things to suggest they were friendly at the very least. Maybe she wasn't an Epstein victim per se, but it does seem like she was a pal to Maxwell and Epstein.
To be clear, I never had a relationship with Epstein or his accomplice, Maxwell. My email reply to Maxwell cannot be categorized as anything more than casual correspondence. My polite reply to her email doesn't amount to anything more than a trivial note. I am not Epstein's victim. Epstein did not introduce me to Donald Trump. I met my husband by chance at a New York City party in 1998. This initial encounter with my husband is documented in a detail in my book, Melania.
Nice, big shout out for her book, that's huge. I'm surprised she also didn't make a mention of the documentary or her cryptocurrency Melania coin. This was a great opportunity for her to shout out the shitcoin, what the fuck? She missed a huge marketing opportunity, but at least she got to name drop the book, so everyone can go pick that puppy up. I know everyone's really biting at their nails, just salivating, waiting to get their hands on more Melania content, and luckily she addresses that while talking about Epstein. And I like how she uses that as evidence, nope, this can't be true about meeting Trump through Epstein, because if you read my book, I actually documented the first time we met. And you can't lie when writing a book. It's 100% truthful. It's gotta be. It's a book. You can't make shit up there. What the fuck? That's not evidence. I have no idea if she actually met Trump through Epstein or the parties there or whatever. I don't know. But it's not like this shuts anything down. Again, this only makes people think that there is a more deep connection here between Melania and Epstein than previously thought. Like before, it was just rumors and like potential explanations and theories. But her coming forward, once again, just adds more fuel to that fire because she doesn't actually really prove anything at all. She just, once again, reminds people of it. And I imagine a lot of people that were watching this didn't even know that Melania had so many photographs and stuff with Epstein and Maxwell, or had like the emails with Maxwell. Like, I bet this actually put it on people's radar. And like I said, this really did come out of nowhere because it's not like Epstein was a huge topic at the moment. With everything else going on, pretty much no one was talking about Epstein until she brought it up here. Which, I mean, again, I think it's great that people are reminded of it because it's a huge fucking problem. It is extremely important, and there is still no justice even being pursued by this administration. So I am glad to see more people talking about it again. I am just really shocked to see how this happened. I would have never predicted something like this to go down here. And like I said at the beginning, she does have like a whole like minute and a half worth at the end of her press conference here dedicated to talking about how important it is and how Epstein wasn't working alone and how there still needs to be justice and that the survivors need to be heard. We need to get more information. That's huge. And that is correct. We do need that. So hopefully we can start moving in that direction. I mean, the First Lady has now just made a big press conference, and it was brought up here. And it is very different than the official administration stance. So, what happens now, I wonder? I'm just very curious to see what comes next, because Donald Trump's wife has now just directly gone against what he says in regards to the Epstein files publicly. So, I guess we'll see how it all shakes out. That's really about it. So yeah, I was going to wait a bit longer before drooling all over this topic just to see if anything would come from it since it's such a big deal. But I've now very much learned my lesson that there is never going to be anything that comes from anything Epstein related. That's basically how it seems. So I'm sure you've seen by now that with all of those redacted files that they've been farting out, you can actually unredact a lot of them yourself, and you don't even need a double-digit IQ to do it. Here's a quick tutorial that even a Neanderthal can follow along with.
Redacted, so you can go ahead and scroll down till you get to a redacted area. Here's a redacted area right here. Guess what? If you want to look at these files, all you got to do is copy it and paste it into Microsoft Word, and guess what? All the files are unredacted. There it is. So go back to justice.org, find all those files, and start unredacting before they figure out how to stop you.
I've seen only a teensy tiny bit of media coverage on this, not a whole lot of buzz generated from the unredacting techniques here, but from the couple that I've seen, they say things like this: hackers unredact Epstein files. Hackers didn't do it. Your fucking grandpappy sitting down in front of his goddamn iPad could do it too. There's no hacking here. It's Control-C, Control-V. Holy shit. My god, he's like an elite XD hacksaw. Wow. Yeah, it really is that easy. You don't have to have a big brain like Jimmy Neutron for this here. And it doesn't work for all the files, but it works for a good portion of them. And what you will find when you unredact a lot of this is that they very clearly have not complied with the law. They are not following the rules of the redactions, which, mind you, are supposed to be reserved exclusively for victims and minors, that kind of thing. But when you unredact a lot of this information, you are finding information that is not related to a victim, a minor, anything like that at all. There are numerous examples of these improper redactions being applied to these files here. There are more examples of that than there are of me being short. You can find so fucking many. And it's kind of like a lot of crickets in mainstream journalism right now in regards to this unredaction technique a lot of people have employed on TikTok, and even like Asmongold has done it on stream as well. And what they're finding is, yeah, it is inarguable that these redactions are not following the rules. There's like this article here that's written about like the redactions on 184 through 192 that were describing taxes paid by companies incorporated by Epstein properties that were not on the balance sheet. And At the end, it even says it's unclear how property material complies with the redaction standard under the law. An inquiry to the Department of Justice has not yet been answered, and it probably won't be answered, because the sad reality of it is, law doesn't apply to people at a certain level of power. The law is like simply here for plebeians, it seems. And it's not even subtle. Fucking goofball Kash Patel can go under oath and lie out of his ass out the wazoo till the cows come home with a straight face and a limp dick, talking about how they don't have any credible evidence that Jeffrey Epstein trafficked victims to anyone, so it's just Jeffrey Epstein and Maxwell, that's it. If you believe anything else, you're a crazy conspiracy theorist. And now with these files, we have provable evidence that they at least knew of 10 other co-conspirators that apparently they just decided to throw in the garbage can and never pursue. But we have so much evidence to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt he is lying, yet he won't face any perjury charges, he won't be arrested, he'll just keep fucking cruising podcasts like they're glory holes here about how he's doing such a good job and puffing up his chest and shit. None of these people that are just blatantly lying and breaking the law will ever be held accountable here. All of these improper redactions that don't comply with the law, don't comply with the rules here, everyone responsible will not face any repercussions. I'm so confident in this, it's fucking sickening. Nothing's going to happen. And it is so incredibly sad. And not only is nothing going to happen, nothing's going to happen and people are going to cheer for that too. I've already seen the narrative shift to like, who cares about the Epstein files, and all these crazy mental gymnastics to downplay the significance of the biggest child sex trafficking operation in our country's history, where there are still unbelievable amounts of people that got away with these heinous crimes, still potentially in the highest levels of government, and people are just saying like, doesn't matter. That's not the important stuff. And make no mistake, this wasn't some innocent whoopsie-daisy where they accidentally redacted information that they weren't supposed to, but they were trying their best to be super transparent and comply with the law. This was on purpose. It's by design. This is a cover-up. It's not a conspiracy. It's in front of your face. You can unredact the information yourself, and it doesn't take a lot of technical prowess to do so. You can confirm this yourself. They are trying to protect these pedophiles. They are running defense for evil, evil people that they have knowingly collected all this information on and decided to do nothing with for years. Not just this administration, the last administration too, obviously, but the point is, right now, they're still doing all they can to protect these people. That is unacceptable in a sane society. And anyone who writes that off as like not a big deal is a fucking lunatic. Like beyond pathetic loser worm. Now, if you're wondering how this even happened with being able to unredact this yourself, is because so many people working in the government are just actually incompetent. I don't mean that like exaggeratory. I mean like they legitimately like diaper wetting, paint chip eating fucking idiots over there. So the likely explanation here is they used the highlighter tool to black out the information, but they didn't actually redact it. So when you copy and paste it, it's still there. They didn't even actually redact it. That is how bad at their jobs they are. And I've seen a theory floating around that maybe this is on purpose from a whistleblower who was tasked with redacting information but wanted it to get into the hands of the American public, so they instead did like the highlighter tool as opposed to redacting it. And I'd be willing to motorboat those titties, play ball with that idea, if we hadn't seen so many examples of just pure incompetence at the highest level. I truly just think it's clear that the people in these positions are just like actual fedora tipping Reddit twerps, like based on how they shitpost on Twitter and everything, and that they legit just can't do their jobs very well. Side note, anyone remember this little golden nugget where they literally rickrolled the Epstein files release, treating the most notorious, infamous child sex trafficker, as well as all of the information in regards to his clients and all of these evil crimes, as a joke? Anyone remember that? I think it's pretty evident that a lot of the people in these positions are actually just fucking dumb. So I'm not willing to believe that this was some kind of internal whistleblower trying to do the right thing. I just think that they are actually fucking lobotomites, just genuinely stupid, and didn't realize that blackout highlighter doesn't actually redact the information. It's wild they can't even do the simplest things correctly, like redact information. You can literally click like 2 buttons in order to do that. And they can't even figure that much out. They are knowingly making a conscious decision to violate the law here in regards to these Epstein file redactions. And even while doing that, they can't even figure out how to redact the information properly. Thus, they get caught with their pants down. They can't even do the cover-up correctly. And still, even though their whole ass is out, goat seed, on full display for everyone, every single human being on the planet that wants to download the files and unredact it themselves, they can see that they broke the law by redacting things that aren't minors and aren't victims. Even this being 100% confirmed will still probably not lead to a single person being fired or a single individual in a higher level of power here even facing some finger wagging. It's just that bad right now. They can do anything they want with complete immunity. And it's just so outrageous. It's infuriating. I had to yap about this a bit because I've now learned that there won't be anything that comes from it. So might as well blabber about it now. That's really about it. See ya. Boy howdy, I can't believe it. The title is not clickbait. This is big. Color me blue and call me a smurf. I'm looking real stupid right now because I've been quite the Scrooge humbugging saying that it'll never happen. They'll never release the Epstein files. And look what happens. Random Friday evening, they drop these puppies. Oh, you know, the same Epstein files that the government also tried to say aren't real are actually a huge hoax and you're an idiot if you believe in them. They're like the Tooth Fairy or something. No such thing. Oh, well, here's those Epstein files that we said not long ago weren't real, by the way. Finally, all of the information on all of these evil pedophiles right here at our fingertips. We get one sentence and then pretty much everything else redacted. And this isn't some isolated incident where I'm cherry-picking shit. The bulk of these files are heavily redacted and heavily doesn't even do it justice. It's so beyond that. Like, it is redacted to a comical degree where it would be laughable if it wasn't just so blatantly evil. Like, look at the thumbnail here. You could close your eyes and see the same thing that these files show you, which is just nothing. Darkness. I always said if they do release it, it'll probably be heavily redacted. I didn't even expect it to be this extreme. This is crazy. They don't even let like a couple of like rogue words fly, like random like the or and. It's all just blacked out emptiness. They released hundreds of pages of it's unfucking believable. Yeah, we've really got these evil pedophiles on the ropes now that the most transparent administration in history has dropped these puppies fresh on our laps here. Look at this. Wow. We've really got them now. We've got them cornered. Surely they'll be held accountable with this out there.
We'll talk about blacking out. I don't know if I can get a close-up of my phone. This is one of the documents that the Justice Department released. It's 100 pages.
Right.
This is what it looks like. I don't know if you can see. It's all black. It's just 100 pages of redaction. That's the transparency we're getting here.
Right, and I'll point to...
This is like the LaCroix of Epstein files, where it's the idea of the files themselves, not actually providing anything. Imagine scrolling through those 100 pages of just pure void emptiness. What the fuck? That is absurd. Now, it's not just these empty files that they plopped out there in the open. They did also provide a lot of new photos that show people like Bill Clinton with Jeffrey Epstein and Maxwell, as well as like Chris Tucker, even Michael Jackson. Like there were a large amount of photos that weren't previously public. And in those photos, there are individuals whose identity is redacted. They have like the giant black square over them. They've been censored. And I thought that was supposed to be for victims, you know? But according to what I read, this actually comes from Fox News. They said the Justice Department redacted the names and identifiers of victims. Fox News Digital has learned that the same redaction standards were applied to politically exposed individuals and government officials. What the fuck? Why would those same redaction standards be applied to politically exposed individuals? That's like the most important individual to be exposed in these Epstein files. Why would that under any circumstances be suitable for a redaction? That's fucking crazy. So, like, they can just be censored out like it's fucking Super Smash Bros. Melee when you're about to unlock a new fighter through, like, a challenge approaching you. Why? That makes no sense. That should just be reserved solely for the victims here. I don't understand, if this is true, why they would be able to redact that kind of information on politically exposed individuals. And it doesn't apply to all politically exposed individuals, clearly, because Bill Clinton is completely unmasked here. He is just like raw out in the open in these photos, as well as others, like I mentioned. So it was, I guess there was exceptions for some of them. I'm not exactly sure how the ruling all worked. There's like a bunch of like nuance to it here. It's very confusing, but under no circumstances should there have been exceptions for these politically exposed individuals in the Epstein files and photos. That's really peculiar, and that really seems extremely corrupt because they should all be going to jail. Like, take, for example, Bill fucking Clinton here. This guy's like the Ronald McDonald to Jeffrey Epstein's empire of child sex trafficking. This guy is in so many photos with so much evidence to support how deeply involved he was as a client. We now have even more photos of him, and still nothing has happened to Bill Clinton. The only person with more photographs with Jeffrey Epstein and Maxwell is Trump. And speaking of Trump, he is doing everything in his power to ensure Maxwell has the easiest time imaginable. Maxwell, the only person, by the way, who has ever faced even an iota of punishment for all of the innumerable, unthinkable, heinous crimes with Jeffrey Epstein's empire of child sex trafficking, the only person who faced even the slightest punishment, he has now ensured went from a prison to a fucking summer camp where she gets to, like, pet training service dogs now, and she lives luxuriously there. It's pretty weird. I think it's very odd that these files are so heavily redacted. I think there's also a very good chance that the photos released were probably not the entire kit and caboodle. I would bet there were probably even more photos that we don't have access to and have probably been completely burned and buried somewhere that just don't exist anymore. That would be my guess. And if you're wondering about any new photos of Trump with Jeffrey Epstein or Maxwell, there's not really anything new there, but he does appear in a few of these photos they released, like this one where there is a framed photo of him with Jeffrey Epstein and Melania in between, as well as this right here where you can see two different pictures of Trump in the drawer. So overall, no like new photos of them together, but there is a framed one and a couple in that drawer, so he did like to keep photos of Trump around of the two when they hung out. And it's hard to say if there's any new evidence there because there isn't anything new in the files themselves since it's all fucking redacted. So the only thing like new here are some of these photographs, which also are redacted. And while I thought it was supposed to be reserved solely for victims, it seems as though there is the potential that it was also used to hide politically exposed individuals. I don't know if that's 100% confirmed or not, but there is now a lot of hoopla saying that this doesn't comply with what was actually sought, and they are looking to pursue further action because they redacted so much that they weren't allowed to. So I guess we'll see how it all shakes out, but holy shit, I still cannot believe what they released here in the state that it is. I can't believe they thought this would go over well with literally anybody to release hundreds of pages of pure redactions. That's unbelievable. But as far as the new photos go, I don't see how that's not actionable to at least try and investigate further. In particular, someone like Bill Clinton, who's here constantly. This guy's popping up like it's Where's Waldo, but he's really easy to spot. I don't understand how, if all of this information has existed for this long, and even in this administration that was denying its existence, why don't they do anything about what they have? I feel like it should warrant, at the very least, some further poking around to see what the fuck was happening here. Like, it just makes no sense to me until you start to realize that all of these people in power, this administration, the previous administration too, who also didn't release anything of substance when it comes to the Jeffrey Epstein case, still nobody's been punished. It's very clear when you realize that there are people on both sides of the political aisle here that are implicated, and should someone like Bill Clinton fall, there's a chance that many others do too that they don't want being exposed. I think that's probably why there's been so little action being taken. It's just so fucking sickening how blatant this corruption is just out in the open. And now with these documents they released, if you can even call them that, it's even more clear as day just how deep this rot goes. It's fucking absurd. Anyway, I had to yap about this a bit. That's it. So yeah. A few days back, Big Bubba Bill Clinton, as well as Hillary Clinton, were talking with a panel about the Epstein files and their involvement in it and the photos and what they all mean, giving their perspective on things. While not being formally accused of wrongdoing, they were there to try and explain their side, so they'd, spaghetti out a bunch of lore here, and that was really it. And not a whole lot's come from it outside of, clips, of, Hillary Clinton getting upset during it, and Bill Clinton in particular, who I really want to yap about, because he was giddy. He was like Howard Lutnick anytime Epstein's name gets brought up. He couldn't stop laughing and smiling, throughout the whole thing. And there's one particular moment that we went over on stream that I have just got to show you, because it is certified wackiness. This is actual bozo clown level insanity here. He goes through the Epstein files and some of the photos there like he's scrapbooking. Now, apparently one of them was about a painting of him in a dress or something that he was giggling about. I don't know if that's confirmed or not, but that's the speculation based off of what you can kind of see when he's turning one of the pages. But it is weird. And to me, it showcases just how little they actually give a fuck about the Epstein files. They treat it like a joke. Bill Clinton treating it like a joke. The entire fucking administration, Howard Lutnick in particular, actually busts a gut every time Epstein's name gets brought up. The powerful people know they're going to get away with it. And I really think this whole hearing is just a farce. I think this is just a little song and dance for the plebeians to enjoy. Look, we're doing something about Epstein files. Look, here's the Clintons. No, we're not actually accusing them of doing anything wrong, but we're pretending that we might. Even though the administration has reiterated multiple times to just drop it, move on, and that there probably won't be any real investigations henceforth. And Perjury Patel likes to keep lying about it out the wazoo till his whole anus falls out, till he full-blown prolapses on his lies. So I don't have a whole lot of faith in this, a committee here that was asking the Clintons questions. I think it's just a sham. I would love if they really did investigate them and everyone in the Epstein files, but I don't think that's coming, and based off of Bill Clinton's attitude here, I think they're also pretty confident that nothing like that's on the horizon anytime soon. Did you see the Did you see the clip of Bill Clinton smiling while looking at old Epstein photos while his lawyer was trying to take them away? Oh my God, yeah.
And for the record, what is happening in this photo?
He's smiling at me. Looks like he's talking to me.
Can you describe the circumstances surrounding this photo?
Are you asking him if he recalls this?
I do not. I have no idea.
You appear to be comfortable with Mr. Epstein in this photo. What do you disagree with?
I'm comfortable with a lot of people. I'm comfortable here. I'm not happy, but I'm comfortable. Let me see it.
Damn, they don't have the whole thing. So in the whole thing going up to this, he looked at it, he started smiling, his lawyer took it away, and he goes over with a big smile on his face. He's like, give me it, give me it, give me it. And then he reminisces. But they're cutting out all the bits. It's so shameless. Just look at the way he follows it. It's like a dog when you take their toy and they're ready to play fetch. It's unbelievable. That's enough, Bill. No, wait. Stop. I was having fun. You wouldn't believe the story behind this one.
Mr. President, we have about 5 minutes remaining in the majority's first hour, so I just want to ask you some questions related to
crazy.
The crimes.
It's crazy.
Epstein and Miss Maxwell.
Unreal. Bill being nostalgic is crazy. I know, man. And his lawyer is like, okay, this, come on. That's enough. Those were the days, off face, yeah. Can I get a copy of that? The way he starts pointing at it actually makes me feel like he's asking for, can I check out some more of these? Okay. He's having so much fun. I think this is the happiest Bill Clinton has looked since he got the fucking Blowjoptimus Prime from Monica Lewinsky. This guy is glistening. He is radiant with glee going through these Epstein files. And I've seen some weird defense of this where people are claiming that the reason he's acting that way is because he's taken aback by the comical attempt to pin bad stuff on him with the Epstein files here. So he's not taking it seriously because they've done such a poor job. It's actually a galaxy brain chess maneuver from Bill Clinton here to show that he's not guilty. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? This makes him look significantly more guilty, at least to me it does. And I imagine this probably is pretty poorly put together. I imagine they haphazardly threw this committee together without any real teeth or any real drive for justice, probably just as a way of trying to, like, appease the public, showing that there is movement on this front, since most sane, sensible people aren't dropping this. But what Bill Clinton's doing here doesn't show like he's not guilty. It shows that he doesn't take this seriously as if it's a big deal, when it is. The administration keeps trying to hammer home the point that you shouldn't care about this and that it's not a big deal and we need to move on, which I think is the most unhinged shit imaginable, because this deals with the largest sex trafficking operation in this country's history. Like, the abuse, the trafficking, the potential murder, of children at the hands of Epstein and Epstein's clients, and nobody has been arrested outside of Maxwell, who again gets to just go to a fucking summer camp instead of a prison because of this administration. Like, it's absurd. You should care about this. And then you have people like Bill Clinton here, who in front of this committee is now just giggling about it and looks like he can't wait to keep reminiscing going through these files. He's probably excited to get back in that chair to look at more photos. And even in the slightest, literal tiniest iota of a chance that Bill Clinton isn't guilty of any wrongdoing, the behavior that he's showcasing here, I think, is still completely unacceptable because of the severity of this case. This is a child sex trafficking operation that went on for so many years, implicating some of the most powerful people on the fucking planet, and nobody's taking it seriously in the government here. Like, it's unbelievable. And Bill Clinton can't stop laughing about it. And people in the administration can't stop laughing about it. It's just crazy to me. And I don't know how anyone could watch this and defend it. Now, throughout the deposition, both Bill and Hillary maintain that they didn't do anything wrong. There was nothing sexual or anything like that ever happened. When Bill was pressed about some of the photos in the files, like him and Maxwell in a pool with an unidentified woman, he said, that was actually at a hotel, nothing sexual, nothing freaky, nothing weird. And I imagine that's where the investigation stops. I have no confidence, no faith in anyone actually pursuing real justice against the evil co-conspirators, the fucking heinous, vile monsters, the clients of Jeffrey Epstein. Like, I don't believe anyone's actually going to seriously try and get anyone thrown in the slammer for it. I really do think, like, this committee, this little hearing here is just a performance. See, we asked Bill Clinton the hard-hitting questions, and then he said, that's a bunch of fiddlesticks. And we said, well, if Bill says so, we did all we could. Hands are tied. Because that's kind of been the whole attitude about it. That and making a mockery of it. A joke out of the Epstein files. Bill Clinton laughing about it. Administration constantly giggling about it. They're slapping their knee every time Epstein's name is brought up. It's fucking scary. It's so out of control, man. But anyway, I had to yap about this Bill Clinton clip in particular. There's actually a few moments like this throughout the whole thing, but that one's the most egregious, so that was the one that I wanted to show. That's the one I think most people have probably seen by now, too, because it's so ridiculous. But there are quite a few moments like that throughout there. They just don't last as long as this one did. He really got lost in his happy thoughts, reminiscing in his Epstein days, his glory days. Anyway, though, that's really about it. It's fucking sick stuff, man. Absolutely twisted. Alright, see ya. Yep, much to the chagrin of a lot of people in power, the conversation around Jeffrey Epstein doesn't seem to be fizzling out anytime soon, which is great. Hopefully, it will keep this steam and will never peter out, because it is of the utmost importance that this gets corrected, that they stop trying to perpetuate these lies that they're attempting to shove down the American public's throat about Jeffrey Epstein not having a list, not indulging in blackmail, and then trying to drop what has now been revealed as modified footage of Jeffrey Epstein's cell area to prove that he took his own life and no one came in there. There was no fishy business. The Baba Yaga didn't pay him a visit or anything. And they try and proclaim that footage was like the raw, real deal, organic, sourced footage here. But what we're talking about today, it turns out that was once again another fucking lie. CoffeeZilla just made a video talking about it as well, so I'm going to play a few clips from that because he is significantly more intelligent than I am. And buckle your seatbelt because it is a wild ride.
The raw Epstein footage was modified according to its metadata, despite Dan Bongino previously saying that they would release the original footage so you wouldn't think there were shenanigans.
There's video. We are working on cleaning it up to make sure you have an enhanced, and we're going to give the original so you don't think there were any shenanigans.
Well, unfortunately, that's not what we got.
To briefly explain for those that don't know, when the DOJ and FBI came out and said that Epstein did not have a list, did not indulge in blackmail, and did in fact commit suicide, they then dropped some footage that was supposed to corroborate that there really was no one else that entered his area and killed him or anything. So they dropped a lot of footage. And it was supposed to be the raw feed of it. Turns out that doesn't seem to be the case. It was very likely modified, and you're about to see the metadata that indicates that it most likely was, as well as a forensic expert that weighs in that also thinks that it was not done properly here.
And basically they pulled the metadata and showed that the footage appears to be assembled from at least 2 source clips, saved multiple times, exported, and then uploaded to the DOJ's website, where it was presented as raw footage, which technically it is not. Now, I pulled the EXIF data myself. This is what it looks like. You can see that there's these ingredients file path here, where you can see 4 different files. 2 of them are just identical. So 2 unique files here that have been basically stitched together is the most charitable interpretation.
So they went into Adobe Premiere and edited the footage, saving it multiple times. I cannot believe that they would even leave the metadata intact. You would think that these 3-letter organizations would be better at hiding their dirty work. Now, maybe if they were using the superior editing program, Sony Vegas, they would have been able to, get away with it more effectively, because Sony Vegas probably doesn't even have metadata. It's so fucking archaic. But they went into Adobe Premiere, spliced this together, and then sent it as raw when it is not raw. It is edited. That is, legitimately, by all possible definitions, a lie. Even though Bongino said, no, you're going to get the raw, so you know there's no shenanigans. But all we get is shenanigans.
Yes, maybe you didn't do anything with it, but it kind of ruins the whole chain of evidence. Wired actually quotes a professor of UC Berkeley whose research focuses on digital forensics. He has testified in numerous court cases, and he says, if a lawyer brought me this file and asks if it was suitable for court, I'd say no. Go back to the source. Do it right. Do a direct export from the original system. No monkey business.
It's actually scary just how blatant this corruption is. For years, they have talked about the Epstein list and the blackmail. It is something that everybody knows exists. There is endless amounts of evidence to suggest its legitimacy. Yet now, all of a sudden, they're like, nah, it's not real. No, that's just fictitious. That's like fucking Santa Claus's list right there. That's not real. No naughty and nice list. No Jeffrey Epstein list. There's no such thing. Jeffrey Epstein's not even a real person. That's just a made-up fairy tale. They haven't gone that far with that claim, but like I said last time, I feel like we're not far off from them just trying to deny Jeffrey Epstein ever even existed, trying to scrub him from the history books here. But they are actively just not even trying to make this believable. They are so confident that they will not be held accountable that they don't even bother to do even the slightest amount of elbow grease to convince anyone to believe them. And they're right, nothing's happening to them. They are covering up for one of the biggest pedophiles in history that implicates some of the most powerful people across the globe. And they are sweeping it under the rug. There have been no arrests made, and it doesn't seem like they're pursuing it at all. Caroline even just recently said that they're not, releasing anything in regards to it because of, how graphic and gross all of it is.
What do you tell MAGA supporters who say they want anyone involved in Jeffrey Epstein's alleged crimes to be held accountable?
This administration wants anyone who has ever committed a crime to be held accountable, and they put out a memo in conclusion of that review. There was material they did not release because, frankly, it was incredibly graphic and it contained child pornography, which is not something that's appropriate for public consumption. But they committed to an exhaustive investigation. That's what they did, and they provided the results of that. That's transparency.
Oh, they provided the results of that? How many people went to jail, Caroline? I must have missed that update. Were there a lot of bad guys that got locked up here? Oh man, that's huge. I feel like more people should know that. Can you share who all got arrested from all of the Epstein investigations? This vile worm tries to say that nothing's going to get released, and I guess nothing's going to happen to anyone that was incriminated here, because a lot of it was not fit for public consumption. Fucking weirdo, no one's asking you to, like, share the videos or anything like that. But you are saying that you have this evidence, and you're doing nothing with it. And we know there is a list of clients and a lot of people that engaged with it. Fucking arrest them! What the public deserves is that you will follow through with your duty of arresting these evil people that you have unbelievable amounts of evidence on. Which is not happening. This is the furthest thing from transparency, unless she's trying to argue that this cover-up is so blatant, obvious, and terrible that everyone can see through it, so you can immediately know how guilty some of the most powerful people are. Then I guess that makes sense, because this is such a poorly done attempt at burying this that everyone can see through it. Is that the point she was trying to make? Perhaps, I guess. Every step of the way here, they are lying and trying to cover up everything related to Jeffrey Epstein, including this footage that was supposed to be raw footage.
The video aspect ratio suddenly shifts as the tape changes over, or whatever they claim. You can see that right here. There's like a sudden shift in the video. I have not changed this video in any way. I have it in the Premiere Pro timeline, which I guess they had as well. So this is as intended. So there's this just weird shifts in the footage. I mean, this was done in actually a very sloppy way after they explicitly talked about needing to do it in the right way so the American public could rely on it.
Now, as CoffeeZilla says, it could be all just incompetence, like actually just fucking troglodytes here in charge of all of this. So even though they called attention to needing to do it the right way, they're just so fucking brain dead, like actual lobotomites, and just couldn't even do it the right way, so then they just farted this out. Like, it could be, like, no manipulation here, like, this is just how it's done, like, for some reason it dumps a minute, like, as it's switching over, and they had to put it into editing software and fuck up the aspect ratio. I guess it could be incompetence, but I would not be that charitable with this. They are doing so much lying. Again, we already know about the list existing, and we know about the blackmail. That is all real stuff. And now they're denying it. And now they're doing this modifying of footage while trying to fight back against the conspiracy that Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. It's just insanity. They are so confident that the public will do nothing about it. They'll get upset, but they'll just swallow it and be done with it and move on. And some people are, but I'm happy that most aren't. They are desperately doing everything in their power to try and bury this whole conversation about Jeffrey Epstein. Like a couple days ago where Trump interrupted a question about it in order to try and shift to something else. Like, are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein, that creep? How can you be talking about him when there's floods going on in Texas? It's such a bad look.
Why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the native set?
Yeah, sure. Hey, Pam, could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this, where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas.
Yeah, people are still talking about Epstein. It's one of the biggest, most in-your-face cover-ups most people have ever seen. This is one of the biggest pedophiles in history that implicates so many extremely powerful people. Yeah, people are still talking about it, understandably, because the people deserve answers, and there needs to be justice for all of the people that engaged in this. This desperation from those in power to move on from the Jeffrey Epstein conversation is extremely scary, and they are doing it with reckless abandon, feeling completely immune to consequences for all of this. And so far they're right. Like, there's not anything that's coming from it. There's still no arrest being made. There's still no new information coming out. The only information we get is more information about how they are lying, like modifying the footage and shit. It's craziness. I just wanted to give you a little update here with everything that's unfolding in the Jeffrey Epstein case. And yeah, that's really about it. So yeah. Do you see it? Look closely in the palm of my hand. To the untrained eye, it may appear empty, but you have to use your third eye to see the truth. What lays before you in the palm of my hand, my little greasy bare paws, are the Epstein files. Nothing. It's imaginary, because this administration still refuses to actually comply with the law. Even when they did release like their couple of batches of Epstein files, they also didn't comply with the law because they redacted names that weren't victims, which has been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. And now it's been, what, a month past deadline, and they are still kicking the can down the road. And now, like a bucking bronco, they're putting up a real fight where now the DOJ is basically saying in their most recent filing that no court can order them to release these Epstein files. They can't force the release. They're basically gloating that they're kind of above the law, is the impression I get from reading through this. Now, a lot of it's legalese, so a bit of it's a bit above my pay grade, but from everything I've read from the experts who have went through this filing, this is the DOJ once again refusing to cooperate and is now just kind of outright saying that no one can really force them to do this. It's fucking sickening. What is supposed to be the most transparent administration in American history seems to have a real issue with transparency when it comes to the Epstein files for some fucking reason. Really makes you think, doesn't it? And speaking of thinking, I want to turn my attention to someone who hasn't had a thought in years. Pam Bondi. She farted out a super strong statement on Twitter that's no nonsense. A reminder to all those in Minnesota, no one is above the law. Mic drop moment. Literal chills. Scam Bondi here is alting. She's really laying it all on the table. But, let's be honest here, Pam. That's not exactly true now, is it? Because there are clearly people who are above the law. It's anyone that's associated with Jeffrey Epstein and the client list. Really, Pamela, it kind of makes me wonder if this could be an actual defense strategy people could employ. You know, like just claiming that they're on the Jeffrey Epstein client list. I wonder if that would just give them full immunity. Because I imagine it'd be like activating God mode in a video game, because this administration, they won't pursue shit if that's the case. So saying that you're on the Jeffrey Epstein client list, that's like Harry Potter putting on the invisibility cloak. Or Bilbo Baggins putting on the fucking One Ring. Just vanish out of this administration's eyes. But not only that, not only do you go invisible, they will jump on a live fucking grenade and do everything in their power to protect you. So, I don't know, I feel like that Ford worker that called Trump a pedophile protector was really onto something there, because there's a lot of pedophile protecting going on every single fucking day from this administration. How else can you possibly explain their reluctance to release the Epstein files and how hard they fight to stop it from coming? And since this administration won't do it, then we have to rely on some real heroes amongst us. These fucking clowns, these goddamn freaks that were given the Epstein Phase 1 binders. These online influencers were apparently holding the Epstein files, smiling and giddy, posing like it's the goddamn prom photos with the Epstein files, and since then, crickets. Why don't you guys release the files? You got the binders, right? Since the government won't be transparent, why don't you guys do it? You're supposed to be like fighting for the American people and shit, right? That's what you pretend to do online. You had the Epstein files, apparently. Why don't you just put it out there? It's just food for thought. I don't know. Now, of course, you'd have to be on the crack pipe to think any of those frauds actually got the Epstein files. I bet in those binders were just pictures of Trump's butthole just goatseeing or something. They clearly didn't get anything, and they are clearly just staying silent about all of this. I haven't seen any of them come forward with their binders since then, so I'm led to believe that they didn't actually get anything at all, and this was just a photo shoot. That's all. Nothing else. Now, back to the main topic here with the most recent filing where the DOJ is outright taking a victory lap about how untouchable they are and how they're really just not able to be forced to release the Epstein files. Let's dive into what's happened here, the most recent news. Yesterday, the DOJ moved to block the appointment of an independent monitor or special master to oversee the release of Epstein-related records in the Maxwell case, arguing that no federal court has the authority to compel such disclosures. It's 6 pages, and you can look at it yourself if you want to really get into the nitty-gritty of it, which I honestly do recommend because there are some eyebrow-raising statements in there. In a nutshell, though, they are trying every trick in the book to weasel their way out of actually having to comply with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. They're basically arguing that the forced production of the so-called Epstein files amounts to an improper attempt to reopen a concluded criminal case and to create a form of judicial oversight that Congress itself did not authorize. There's a lot to digest in there in only 6 pages. They really give you a lot to fucking suck on, and they're not exactly subtle about it. There's even mentions of the representatives that have led for the passage of this Epstein Files Transparency Act, where they're calling into question, like, if they even had, like, the gusto to do so. At least that's how it reads to me, where they're questioning the standing that they have in order to even do something like this. In the actual filing, it really seems like they just started pissing on them as, like, saying they're not big enough to do this. It felt like the actual filing was like, these guys are fucking nobodies and don't have the standing for it. But anyway, they asked the court to appoint a special master or independent monitor to compel DOJ compliance with the act, which the DOJ flatly opposes. To go a bit further, they argue that even if the court were inclined to entertain the request, it could not do so constitutionally. This is in regards to some of the things from the Epstein Transparency Act, and they assert that the representatives here they haven't suffered a concrete, particularized injury. And the Epstein Files Transparency Act does not create an individual right to obtain information, unlike the Freedom of Information Act, nor does the act authorize lawmakers or anyone else to sue the DOJ for alleged non-compliance. When I read that, I let out an involuntary noise of disgust, because that's just being very blatant and open about it. Like, yeah, if we don't comply, you can't do anything about it, dork, you fucking dweebs. Go kick rocks, pussy. If we don't comply, you can't sue us or anything. To harken back to Scam Bondi, it really does feel like there are some people above the law. I'm gonna be honest with you. Despite what your tweet is boldly stating, I do think there are some people above the law, Pam, and they might be right under your nose. Again, I'm kind of jumping around here. I recommend reading the whole thing, but in closing, prosecutors maintain that the act provides no cause of action at all. Where Congress has not explicitly authorized judicial enforcement, federal courts are barred from inventing one. As the DOJ puts it, courts cannot reach out to award remedies where neither the Constitution nor a statute authorize them. In short, the government's filing makes clear that absent new legislation explicitly authorizing court enforcement, the DOJ believes no court can force it to produce the Epstein files, regardless of public pressure or congressional intent. Real quick, to briefly tie this back to good old Scam Bondi, since she wants to bring up Minnesota, there's this big talking point about comply. Well, why does compliance only apply to American citizens? Why doesn't it apply to the DOJ as well, who is not complying with the law? They are also supposed to be governed by the law too. According to Pam, no one's above the law. So why aren't they complying with it? They have been routinely violating the protocol set in the law with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. They are not complying with it. And in this most recent filing, they are even openly saying, if we don't comply with it, you can't sue us or anything. They are even saying in their own statement about non-compliance. Why would they even be teasing that notion of non-compliance? Why won't they just comply? Why are the administrative authorities not talking about the DOJ's reluctance to comply with the law? I don't know, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Pam, it feels like some people are above the law, doesn't it? I don't know, I'm just getting a whiff of that for some reason. Anyway, that's your most recent Epstein Files update. It's not looking like it's ever actually going to lead to anyone getting arrested in regards to the Epstein client list. Who would have seen that coming? Unthinkable that this administration wouldn't be pursuing action against those evil, fucking heinous villains in the Epstein client list. It's so odd that they wouldn't be transparent and releasing these files. One of the main things Trump ran on was about releasing these Epstein files. So many in his supporter base were very excited to see that happen, and now it's not happening, and they're fighting tooth and nail every step of the way over the last year to prevent this from happening. And now, even though there's an actual act, a law put into place that they're supposed to follow to release them, they're still not doing it, and are now even just saying, yeah, maybe we won't. No courts can really make us do that. And if we don't do that, you can't sue us for it either. I feel like anyone should have a big problem with that. I feel like any sane, sensible person should immediately view this as the biggest possible red fucking flag. And it seems to me that that Ford worker that called Trump a pedophile protector to his face, which elicited a finger and a fuck you from the big man in charge, it really seems like that pedophile protector nomenclature feels accurate for Trump and this administration, based on all available information here for how hard they don't want these Epstein files to come out. It feels like they're doing a lot of pedophile protecting. That's really about it. So yeah, I wanted to give you a brief little follow-up to the latest batch of Epstein files that dropped. Over 3 million files came out, and it's been quite a few days now of people coming through them and finding tons and tons of alarming things, new allegations, new names, a ton of new information. I highly recommend you check out CoffeeZilla's 2 latest videos covering this new Epstein file drop. I think he does a great job at cutting through the bullshit and delivering the clearest coverage and highlighting some of the most important takeaways from all of this new information. This is a huge deal, and don't let any of the NPCs on Twitter convince you otherwise or try and minimize the importance of this. And crazy enough, I know it's not just these faceless homunculi on Twitter that have this administration's cock buried deep into their throat that's trying to convince you to just let this all go. The administration itself is doing that as well, which is the main thing I want to talk about here. Since this release, the official narrative from the administration is they've finally complied with the law and release these files, and now we can all just move on. Which is crazy because there are still no arrests and seemingly no investigations either, despite all of this overwhelming evidence that now the public has access to and can see some really fucking terrible things in. Raping children, trafficking children, possible cannibalism, torture, murder, all of this now just openly in the public. Of course, with tons of redactions to protect the perpetrators, naturally, which, of course, violates the law that they're right now gloating about following, by the way. All of this is now out there in the public, and yet still, no investigations, and the administration is proudly just saying, time to move on. Before showing you some clips here, I want to do a little experiment here with you to try and activate a few neurons, God forbid. Let me dust off your brain here for a moment. Let's say that you have drank the Kool-Aid to such an extreme degree that you believe all of these Epstein files are a bunch of hooey when it comes to the Republicans that are named in there, like Howard Lutnick or Donald Trump. Let's say that you think that all of those are make-believe, there's nothing in there that holds any water, it's a fucking, wild goose chase, it's all fake. But you believe that all of the information in regards to Democrats in there, like Bill Clinton, is legitimate, and Bill Gates. All of that's real, but all the stuff on the Republicans is fake. Let's play ball with that. Let's say you're right. Why are the Republicans that are in charge right now in this administration not pursuing an investigation on the Democrats in these Epstein files? Let's go into a little bit of chess theory here. Everything about Donald Trump and the Epstein files is totally innocent. He's been absolved of all wrongdoing like he says he is and like a lot of other people are trying to regurgitate, despite the numerous times his name appears. Let's say he's not compromised by Israel like the FBI was investigating. Let's say all of this is wrong, but all the Democrats that are named in there are actually guilty. Those are the actual evil perpetrators and the real culprits. Why the fuck aren't we arresting the Democrats, or at the very least, investigating all of this information in the Epstein files? Ask yourself that question. Let's use someone easy, Bill Clinton. I think most sane people on the planet, after combing through the Epstein files and seeing all of these allegations and the pictures and everything with Bill Clinton, can agree there's enough here to at least start poking around and see what's going on with Bill Clinton's relationship to Epstein and everything that happened on the Epstein Island, right? Well, why the fuck is Trump defending him so adamantly right now? He just put out a statement like, man, I hate that people are shooting spitballs at Bill Clinton. I like that guy. I love that guy, actually. For a second there, I thought he was going to request a group hug in the shower with Bill Clinton at the very end of that fucking segment. Like, all of a sudden, he's Bill Clinton's best friend suckling on his titties. Like, what? Where's this coming from? Like, only a couple days ago, he was like, yeah, Bill Clinton's name's all over that. That backfired, didn't it? And now he's like, oh man, Bill Clinton's, he's like the best of us. That guy's awesome. Oh, this is craziness. Actual craziness. Now, I know that there's like some probes into some things in regards to the Epstein files and people like Bill Clinton, like related to it. But nothing's gonna come from it. Nothing has come from this shit ever. Across multiple administrations, nothing has come from it, so I have no expectation that there's going to be any justice, especially when the fucking President Trump is still talking about, like, let's move on and it's not important. Or Perjury Patel, like, hey, we comply with the law, Epstein files are out there, we're done here. Time to wash our hands of it. Or Todd Blanche going and saying, it's not a crime to party with Epstein. It's very hard to have any level of faith that there's going to be any repercussions to all of these evil monsters. Now, I know I've been sitting here shitting and spitting, got a little off track. To bring it back to the initial thought experiment I wanted to plant into your noodle. If you believe all Republicans in these Epstein files are innocent, but all Democrats are not, ask yourself, why are the Republicans that are in charge right now not actually investigating or holding any of these Democrats accountable and punishing them, pursuing charges, or anything of the sort? Why does it seem like the actual narrative is the Epstein files are out there, we're done here? Even though, by the way, the official stance only a few months ago is that the Epstein files aren't real, it's a Democrat hoax, they don't exist, that kind of thing. After, of course, Pam Bondi said they were on her desk. After, of course, they had actually given the Epstein files phase 1 to some fucking right-wing influencers who have been hush-hush crickets ever since. Anyway, if the Democrats in the Epstein files are guilty, why are they not being investigated? Let me offer you a little game theory here. It's because the Republicans in the Epstein files aren't actually innocent. No one in the Epstein files is innocent when it comes to a lot of the evidence we now have at our fingertips. There's a lot of real actionable stuff in there, at least I think so. Now, of course, a lot of it is unsubstantiated. I get that. Not everyone in there is probably guilty of shit. Like I know Russell Wilson was in there about like a plane, like trying to buy a plane. I get that. But there's a lot of substantial evidence on a lot of very powerful people, like a Howard Lutnick. And so, if this administration did actually pursue charges against the Democrats that are named in the Epstein files, then that puts them at risk of being implicated as well if that person starts squealing, if they start letting the fat lady sing. That's why I believe they are not pursuing any kind of real investigation or anything at all for anyone associated with the Epstein files. That's why, apparently, all of these extremely powerful people that are named in there are completely fucking untouchable. They're basically ghosts at this point. If your name is in the Epstein files, you've basically activated God mode in America, where you cannot be touched or punished, it seems. And I think that's also why the previous administration wasn't touching anything in the Epstein files, because again, if they went after the Republicans that were named in the Epstein files, that opens them up to also being implicated there as well. Because clearly, this was more than just one party. Both Republicans and Democrats are named a lot in these Epstein files. So it'd be a fucking disaster for both parties, which is why it's been such like a fucking hot potato that hasn't been touched. That's what I believe. Now anyway, I think any sane person would agree that this is a huge fucking problem, that no one is getting arrested for this. But unfortunately, the powerful politicians that govern us are not sane. So they are to our face spitting on us, telling us to just move on and that it's not important. Here's those words from Donald Trump.
And you tell me something else. No, I think it's really time for the country to get onto something else. Really, now that nothing came out about me, other than there was a conspiracy against me, literally by Epstein and other people. But I think it's time now for the country to maybe get onto something else.
What would you say to people who feel like they haven't gotten justice, Mr. President?
Something that people care about. Yeah.
Oh, move on to something that people care about. So you don't care about child sex trafficking, the raping of children, the potential cannibalism, the torture, the murder, all of that? That's not something you think American people should care about? That's not the important stuff? Well, what the fuck is? The Trump phone? Which is probably coming out any day now. Supposed to come out in like August of 2025, by the way. Still no expected delivery time on my Trump phone device. Crazy. They're saying maybe March now. Fingers crossed. Any day, no doubt. How can anyone sit there and not be revolted by that statement? Again, if these Epstein files absolved Trump, which I don't see how anyone could mental gymnastic that explanation into reality and truly believe it. But again, even if he is completely squeaky clean here in the Epstein case, everyone else isn't. There's plenty of people that aren't. Why does he want so badly to just move on from this? Why does he want to bury it? He should be like really gung-ho about getting all of them arrested. And in fact, actually, one of his big promises when he was campaigning is that's exactly what he's going to do. But promises made, promises broken. That's the new motto. That is exactly what's been going on. He campaigned about how important the Epstein files were to release and actually get justice for the victims and punish these heinous, evil people. And then the second he gets into office, he's done everything in his power to not only deny the existence of the Epstein files, calling them a Democrat hoax, but also doing everything he can to prevent them from coming out. And it has just been a complete circus with these. And now that they're here, and people have all of this evidence with so many names and so many bad people on there with a lot of things that I do think would warrant an investigation, he is saying it's not important and that we need to move on. That is actual craziness.
Do you have regrets about how it's been handled?
Look, like any other hot topic issue, the American public and the world had a great interest in this. And what we did under President Trump's leadership is produce the most transparent DOJ and FBI in history. 3 other administrations had the opportunity to do this, and we produced everything we legally and lawfully could. We worked with our partners in Congress, we followed the statutes and the court orders, and we produced, 3 million some pages? So I think we got to the result in the right way. Could we have gotten there faster? I'm not really sure because of numerous court cases, multiple protective orders, multiple court sealings. And so now we've produced everything we can while protecting victims' rights and
This fucking dweeb, this insufferable dork. So here's Perjury Patel taking a victory lap here about how they did everything right when it came to the Epstein files, which, by the way, under oath, Kash Patel said that there's no evidence that there were any, clients, no list. He said plenty of things that have been completely disproven with these Epstein files being released, but he's not facing any perjury charges, and to my understanding, no one's even pursuing it. Super weird how Perjury Patel just gets away with it. But here he's talking about how they did everything right in the right way, which is not true. They did everything they could to not release these files every step of the way. They're already 2 months late, basically, close to it. And also, the redactions were supposed to be reserved exclusively for the names of victims. They have not been used for just victims' names. That has been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. That is a violation of the law that had been signed into place when it came to the handling of the Epstein files. And pretty much everything he says there is just a lie. That is what Perjury Patel does, just lie. But the sentiment he's trying to express is now that they have the 3 million some files out there, they've done what they were required to do, and now we need to move on. There is nothing in regards to an investigation or punishment to the people that are named in these files with tons of evidence and tons of really very, very disturbing things, pictures, videos, emails, all of this stuff, and all of the people in them don't seem to be looking at any possible punishment or anything at all. It doesn't seem like there's any level of justice coming to the victims here of the Jeffrey Epstein operation and all of the clients.
Is there any chance that any of these individuals who partied with Epstein and engaged in, relations with minors will be prosecuted? Any chance?
I'll never say no, and we will always investigate any evidence of misconduct. But as you know, it is not a crime to party with Mr. Epstein. And so as horrible as it's not a crime to email with Mr. Epstein. And some of these men may have done horrible things. And if we have evidence that allows us to prosecute them, you better believe we will. But it's also the kind of thing that the American people need to understand, that it isn't a crime to party with Mr. Epstein. It isn't a crime to have
Didn't look like that's all that was going on some of those photos. I mean, if the photos could speak, some of them look pretty bad.
That's right. And unfortunately, photos can't speak. And so we need witnesses and we need
Are there
evidence.
videotapes that you all have? Or?
To answer that question, yeah, there's videotapes that they all have. In fact, Pam Bondi said that there's thousands of videos with children in them. Pam Bondi seems totally fine just letting this whole Epstein thing just kind of fall to the back rooms, by the way. Anyway, though, here's Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche just outright saying with his whole chest, it's not a crime to party with Jeffrey Epstein. And he's being very open and honest here about how little he's actually caring about it. He's making it seem maybe there's a chance for an investigation, but he's being very blunt that it's probably not coming. There's probably not going to be an investigation. He's even saying, yeah, unfortunately, pictures can't speak. So all those horrible pictures and all of that evidence in there, probably not going to lead to an investigation. Everyone's going to get away with it. Oh, shucks. But it's not a crime to party with Jeffrey Epstein. The man behind the biggest child sex trafficking operation in this country's history. What a strong message to be sending, Todd. It's all just so blatantly in your face. They treat you like you are a mindless sheep. And plenty of people are proving them correct here with the shit that they're swallowing here with the smile on their face. Wake the fuck up, samurai. The president has just said that we need to move on from the Epstein files into something that people care about. Let that marinate for a second. Really think about that. Why is he trying to make it seem like the raping of children, the sex trafficking of children, the cannibalism, the torture, the murder is not something you should care about? And this is all perpetrated by potentially the most powerful people in this country. Why is the president and his administration trying so hard to bury this and get people to move on without even trying to investigate or hold anyone accountable that's named in these files? It's just crazy. Anyway, I just had to yap about this a bit after seeing the response here from government officials about it's not important, just move on. I actually couldn't believe my fucking ears. Anyway, that's really about it. See ya.